Hello and welcome to Apex Legends, Apex Central, the Apex Legends podcast is what I meant to say. It's just the way it goes sometimes, though. Words get mixed up. I was just telling the boys that dragging a little bit today, a little slow. You could see Hodsic bottom left is also dragging just a touch. But we got three homies talking, and I'm sure Hodsic has plenty to say about his lack of sleep. Of course, IHOLDSHIFT, good to be with you guys once again, hosting the show for you. If you're a first-time viewer, welcome. It's good to see you guys. If you missed the first episode, you can catch it back on the YouTube channel. It'll be there in the Apex Legends category for you. But I also got Raynday with me. Speaking of things YouTube, I'm sure you probably recognize that face from the YTs. If not, of course, from being at Poland. How you doing, Mr. Evan Rayner?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic. Early morning for me on the West Coast. It's only noon. You guys have to sit with, most of you, I think, at least have to sit with 3 o'clock or later. So I still got most of my day. I'm ready to kick it off with this.
Heck to the yeah. And of course, you were, we've talked about your YouTube success, but you were at Poland as the one of the onstage interviewers and hosts. And kind of tell me about that transition. I mean, your channel kind of blew up out of nowhere. It kind of felt like for a second. I mean, you always hold 13,000 or so average views, but then all of a sudden you put out an Apex video, you hit your first milli. Congratulations on that.
Thank you, man. Yeah, it was definitely a good run, and it seemed like it clicked. I had created my channel with Smite, then went to Paladins because I started working for Paladins as a caster for the 3 years, which is where you and I met and had so many moments over there. But when Apex hit, it kind of like reunited a lot of my fan base. People that had maybe stopped playing Smite, didn't care about Paladins. Everyone had kind of found a spot with Apex, and obviously the game blew up. So it was great, and been playing it since day one launch, and I'm excited to I was privileged to be a part of the Poland thing. It was a great tournament, and I think a great showcase of what the esports scene holds for Apex.
Yeah, great show as well. And of course, on underneath me, we've got Urban from Team Fire. We were talking to him about his morning so far, and maybe not the morning that he wanted, but the one that we're going to go ahead and say that everyone would essentially need. The little 7 a.m. wake up in an early morning. Good to see you, though, Urban. How are you doing, bud?
Doing good. You know, don't have as long of a speech as my predecessor here, but it's doing good. You know, looking forward to this, and yeah, I don't know.
You were telling me before everyone else came on our video call that you guys are actually in the team house right now looking to do some boot camping. You've got your teammate from Sweden flying over. What, later? Do you say later today or later this week?
Later this week.
Later this week.
So, I mean, if you can see over my shoulder, we got a little map printed out. Nice little thing. Got some markers out, and you know, just trying to plan drop spots and rotation stuff. Looking good.
If you guys are not familiar with Team Fire, one of those squads, just like Hodsic, who we'll talk to in a second, was just barely not able to quite get to the grand finals of Poland. Hodsic, good morning to you.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
It is afternoon on the East Coast.
True, it is good afternoon. I thought morning was more appropriate considering that, you know, we're both kind of dragging butt today.
Yeah, a little bit. It's all right, though. We'll make it through.
Make it through. Of course, Hodsic for the Pittsburgh Knights, if you're unfamiliar. And I actually didn't realize you guys were kind of still going through tryout processes. Any inside information as far as who your third's going to look like, maybe? Huh?
At this point, we're never going to find a third.
Okay.
It's literally, I think we've been on the search for a third since I think like the first month and a half that we actually signed. It's been rough.
Wow. That's just life, my dude. Best of luck in that instance. But let's kind of get into the talking points. We're going to talk a lot of Season 3, but since Raynday and Urban are actually new to the show, I kind of want to get your guys' talks on Poland. And that was our biggest focus from our episode 1, mostly talking about format and things like that. Evan, you are no stranger to long days on the casting front. Tell me a little bit about your experience, though, just, you know, being on stage, talking to all these guys and kind of seeing it, you know, kind of through the looking glass a little bit when it comes down to how, like, the grand finals that Sunday went. But especially being able to talk to these guys throughout the week, kind of lay out your experience from Poland a little bit.
One of the things, it was amazing, man. First of all, just such a great trip. And I think the casters as well were very enamored. They put together a group of people from a lot of different backgrounds of games. So it brought an interesting perspective to it. And I was probably the most Apex focused caster and person there because that's pretty much all I had been doing for the last 8 months.
Right.
So it was amazing to talk to some of these pros and see these guys and their performances, how much it came down to the smaller details that I think general players who love Apex and watch it don't quite know. You know, knockdown shields, winning final circles, things that you don't necessarily see how tight things got unless you're in the Apex Predator high level ranked. So it was great to pick their brain. And I think the finals were, oh man, I mean, there's so much to say about those finals, man. What a great day. What a hype day. What a long day. So got to find the balance in there. I'm sure for the guys who played 15 games, I know Husker's a guy I talked to a lot there, 15 games in that day. just a rough one. But I think it's really close to like the best battle royale format for a finals we've ever seen.
And now, Urban, you guys played in the losers finals and just barely missed out on getting to that grand finals. But as someone who played throughout the entirety weekend and the first set of games on Sunday, and then spending the time kind of as a spectator for the grand finals, kind of take me through your experience as well, not only as a player, but how you kind of interpreted the grand finals when you were watching.
So I mean, just going to the grand finals, like that was crazy. I mean, we just lost by a couple spots, and joined over in the player lounge, and it's kind of like I think in the seventh game we're like, this might end now. And it's just keeps going.
Right.
Like you see Hall miss the clutch, which
Yeah.
like to speak up for the format, like if Hall clutched that
When
would have, no matter how long this game went on, that would have been a moment, like
it would have.
moment everyone remembers. Like that, you had goosebumps, watching that. Going into G2, almost finishing out, and then
Mhm.
FlyQ pushed them. Like just moments like that. Like I think the format was amazing. It was a little long with loser bracket before it, but the format was amazing because you actually had such a huge build up going into that win, where you knew if that team could finish it out, they win. It's amazing. But as for playing it, it's I think the format was really nice for BR because usually you have you're one and out. You have a rough day or rough game and you're gone. Better luck next time. I think Hodsic, unless I'm wrong, like Knights and Secret, I think, right, were two teams that originally went down after
Losers
the first
round
day.
one, yeah.
Yeah, and ended up going to losers final. Like you wouldn't have the normal one, but they proved they could be there. Well, a different format, you'd kind of be like, okay, what do we do wrong? So I think the
Absolutely.
format was amazing for actually, teams being able to show what they actually could do. The only kind of iffy part I had was, it happens in all BRs, but like, you had teams like Wyvern who'd come out with 25 kills game one, and they're kind of like, okay, what do we do for the next two games? Like we already qualified, and like,
Yeah.
but I think it was great.
Now,
Great first land for most people.
Hodsic, remind me, because it was a couple of weeks ago now, when we were talking grand finals, we all kind of threw out, at least initially, some ideas as far as, how do we kind of amend it a little bit? Is it just the simple fact of just move losers finals to the day before, or is it put a limit as far as how many rounds grand finals go? What was your take as far as grand finals, as far as like what adjustments you would make if you were to make any to the grand finals format?
I think definitely have a whole day just for the finals first and foremost, because it was it was an endurance for everyone that played in the finals, but it was a massive marathon for those that played in the loser bracket finals. I think the ones that played in before the grand finals played a total of 16 games, was it?
Yeah.
Which is
something
nuts.
like that.
That's exhausting.
That's wild.
So first and foremost, definitely do that, and then I think if they just lower the match point threshold to, like, mathematically, right, the lower the match point threshold, the lower amount of games theoretically. Probably lower it just by 5-10 points. Should probably shave off at least a possible game or two, a likely game or two, rather.
Did anyone ever do the math there on how many, like, the maximum amount of games was? Because like 15 is like max, right?
Yeah,
Something like that.
I was talking
As far as grand finals goes, how far it could possibly
because
go?
eventually every team would be at 50
Yeah.
points.
Yeah, I think it's just kind of dependent, right? Because like if you have a team that were to be finishing 20th place with 0 points for the first 8 games, and then all of a sudden they start winning, and then they don't win a game, it very well could be potentially more than that. I don't know if anyone actually did the math, but I would say somewhere between 15 and obviously at that point you could also potentially argue that maybe even 20 it would take, because there's 20 teams that are there, which it would be ridiculous. But Onset actually had a really good idea as well, which was the teams that come out of the winners bracket get a point threshold bonus. So that way they're closer to that threshold from being rewarded of never having to go to the losers bracket. I kind of wanted to get your guys' take though, Raynday and Urban, since you guys weren't a part of that conversation, as far as if you were to make any kind of adjustments or suggestions as far as that grand finals format goes. Because I think everyone pretty much consents that agreement that winning the last game and being the champion of the tournament is something that's truly special and something that's definitely original for the format that we were introduced to in Poland.
I mean, my take initially is you don't change the way the grand final functions. Is you have to have a winner at the end. That to me created such a great moment for the esport. Now, I do think though, the question of like, do you reward the winners for staying in the winners bracket is super valid, because that's a lot of work. And you have to wonder, the reward right now is that you don't have to risk elimination and go to the losers bracket potentially. And the way losers got basically de-incentivized was you had to play 5 games on the final Sunday or 4 games on the final Sunday, then go into a winners bracket game. So with endurance testing, I think it could be interesting to have a point total, but at the same day, in the same way, would you have had that level of excitement and competition as a viewer with somebody TSM already starting 10 points ahead? You know, maybe that game that they clutched wasn't the game they needed to clutch in the game before. They end up winning because of it. How would that throw teams off? I did like the blank slate personally, but I just think you have to move the losers bracket to a separate day. And maybe it's 5 points. Maybe it's 5 points that you get ahead, you know, not 10.
Something marginal, sure. Urban, what were your general thoughts as far as what adjustments you were to make if you were to suggest anything?
Well, to speak about the winners coming out with a bit of an advantage, I prefer not to see that because like this game, especially a tournament like that, where you're going through rounds upon rounds, there's so much endurance and ability to be consistent, prove you're supposed to be there. That I feel like every team that made top 20 deserved to be there. I don't think that just because one team stayed above, another team had to make a harder push or similar push to the bottom side, that one team should have a huge advantage going into the money. Because at that day, everyone deserved to be there. Everyone played 12, 11 games to get there, and then had to play another 11. I feel like everyone's just had to be the same spot to start. But I do agree that that last day needs to be a day of its own. The final grand finals can't be right after losers because I mean, even from a viewing perspective, that was a long day. That's the day where most teams are. It's all coming to a conclusion. You got to watch that. So to watch that much, I mean, like even the players' lounge, we're so invested. There's a few people by game like 9 where they're kind of like hats over their head and they're like passed out. But I think if they could try to just maybe modify the amount of points given, 50 is a nice number, but just maybe modify the amount of points given during a game, just so you could have maybe a cap of like I found like around the 8-9 game was kind of like where I was losing interest a little bit. So maybe like if they kind of focused for the 8 game point, I feel like it would be a great grand final.
That was kind of my reaction too. Was round 9. It was just like, all right, like this has been exciting, but at a certain point, everyone starts to check their watch and say, okay, this is starting to get a little bit extreme. Yeah, a little bit of a roller coaster ride for sure. Again, if you missed some of the conversation about what we had to say about the poll and stuff, make sure you guys go back and check that first episode. It was a lengthy conversation, but a good one. I want to spend most of the time of this show, though, talking about Season 3. Of course, just coming out, or Series 2 of the ranked mode. But let's just go ahead, wipe your minds right now, because what we know now is vastly different than what we first experienced. What were your guys' initial reactions, first drop in, let's say in the first 4 hours of playing Season 3? What were your initial reactions of the new content? We'll just go ahead and start with you, Evan.
I was lucky enough to be able to get it a week early, and I had to keep my mouth shut. And really pissed me off because it was the most exciting thing I think that I had seen happen to a game that I had played for a long time. It felt like a completely new game. The new map obviously changed the dynamic. It reminded me a lot of how the meta shifted for the armed and dangerous mode with snipers and shotguns. Sure. It's kind of a different game. And so my first impression was this is phenomenal. People are going to be extremely excited. The new map is going to be the most exciting talking point for this. I did not realize how strong the charge rifle was in our like 5 hours we got to play and try to record footage and stuff. But that became a thing. But my first impression was what an incredible thing for Respawn to do, to put out a completely new map, 22 months in development. Before the game even launched, they had this in development. My impression was hats off, personally.
Urban, what was your first thoughts, going from Kings Canyon to World's Edge?
My first thoughts are pretty much the same thoughts I have now. I turn a corner, I'm like, what's going on? I just like it's such a big map. All the buildings are different. They reuse a lot of assets in Kings Canyon. You'd be in the south side of the map, it'd be the same building as the north side. Now I'm just like, I turn a corner, I'm like, where am I? The map's it's huge. Really big difference from Kings Canyon. And I mean, I still haven't discovered as much as I want to. It's a lot of new content.
I'm glad that you brought up the whole building design thing, because I remember specifically in my first few hours, I haven't even touched ranked, but I think I'd hit my first ranked game right around that 4 hour mark as far as game time played, and got into a fight like just outside of drill site, and those buildings that like have the stairs that go to the second level, but there's also like 3 different entrances down low. I was in like, I had no idea how to get in or how to get up. I was like, where's the door? Where do I get to the second level? I remember that so specifically being so lost, because it's true. Like, I mean, all the way through the river, north north to south, all those river buildings in Kings Canyon were essentially 100% the same. And even the buildings like, the ones in water treatment were almost the same ones that were in runoff. So yeah, that's so funny that you brought that up because I had the same exact reaction. Hodsic, what were your first reactions though? First 4 hours in game played.
Charge rifle was busted. Game 2. I think my second game is when I found it because I didn't find one game 1. My teammates did, and then they were running around. They're like, "Oh, this gun is hilarious!" But then, like, I think we all found one game 2, and they were like, "Yo, this is a little silly." But now aside from obviously the charge rifle being a little busted, I mean, I was blown away. I think the map aesthetically looks a lot nicer than Kings Canyon. Like Kings Canyon's either like it's brown or like orange,
Right.
Yeah.
with a little bit of green. And it kind of got like a little boring after a little bit, at least just aesthetically. I think the bigger map is a big change of a nice fresh change of pace. It needs a little bit of tuning in terms of like this, I think the circle and a lot of other things. But for just like the first, just like, hey, we're just gonna dump a brand new map on you. I think it's very solid. Definitely plays different. It's not the same Apex as Kings Canyon.
Now, I want to kind of get your guys' take because I am terrible at learning maps. I'm the slowest person in the world when it comes to learning maps. And I dissected the map. I went from north to south, east to west. I just went down in a column, every single drop to try to learn the map. How do you guys like preferably learn new maps like that?
Just gotta dive right in. I mean, there's no real.
That's a huge conversation in this room, because we, like I said,
Well, you got a map behind you.
Like, we have the map printed down. We're like, it's like, how are we gonna tackle this? And it's like our owner's like, okay, just grid it out, kind of take it step by step. I'm always the guy who's like, I just want to land it 1,000 times,
Right.
So it's just like it's hard. Like it's a big map. It's a whole new thing. Like you didn't see it, a week ago, or I guess now 10 days ago. So
I don't think there's like a systematic like way like to learn the map faster than really anyone else.
Right.
I think everyone like you can sit there, pick Pathfinder, and then like go to every wall, and then just like go to a public match and just start grappling everything and see what you can and can't do. You could do that, but at the same time, I think everybody just wants to dive in. It's important to also learn how fights work on the map.
Sure.
Right. So there's a lot to it. And I think this speaks like volumes of like the map design team that makes these maps for Apex, because I think like it was like 7 months down the road, we're still finding new things about Kings Canyon that a lot of players didn't like, that like we didn't know one another. Were like, oh, did you see this nuts like rat spot that we found the other day? Delete the VOD. Like that conversation happened at least once a week. And this map is even bigger and definitely a lot more, I think, complex than Kings Canyon in terms of design. Lots of different things going on. So there's no real easy way to do it other than just grinding out as many games as you can get.
Yep.
No real system, just experiencing it as much as you can.
We've kind of hopped around a little bit as far as, our talking points were, but this is a good convo. So I kind of want to get your guys' thoughts as far as like different pros and cons of each map. Starting off with the Kings Canyon, it didn't really provide nearly the amount of verticality up until like things like Cage were added and things like the labs with the portal out, started to kind of get added in. But what are your kind of initial reactions, just generally speaking, whether it's casually or competitively, about the pros and cons of each map? I would say, for me, first and foremost, I think you hit it nicely, Hodsic. Just the aesthetic of the map. Having these lush green areas to lava areas to ice areas, it really does kind of tie in a whole world feel. But beyond that, and beyond just initial drop spots and things like that, what are some of the pros and cons you've kind of experienced about each map, especially considering that we only get World's Edge right now? We don't have the ability to go back. You've been doing a lot of drops, let's say in Epicenter or in Capital City, and you don't have the ability to go back to things like Cage or towards Skulltown. What are some of your biggest pros and cons, Evan, when you drop in these days?
For me, I think you have to start taking into account the fact that you need a sniper, or at least someone needs to have that sniper, and it's got to be a charge rifle, preferably. I felt that I love the scout. I like the double tap. Even the longbow feels pretty decent right now still, but if you don't have a charge rifle, you're just not competing in this level of a map at range. And I know a lot of pros are boycotting it. I know some aren't picking it up. I think it depends. You're still going to have Wraith with an aggressive loadout of, Wingman, Peacekeeper, R99. Still seems like those are relevant for competitive. But what I've noticed is that you're right, the verticality, that's the big thing for me. And it's, with crypto coming in, I've actually, so excited for him to have an introduction. I saw your little clip, Hodsic. I'm curious your thoughts on crypto too. But I just feel like Pathfinder is even more of a necessity in this map, particularly. I'm finding a hard time seeing where crypto is going to fit within some of these team compositions. That's the big thing that I've noticed, just how important that verticality is with the snipers and with the open space you have to travel.
And I was just kind of hitting on that with with the open space, and there is still some house camping going on that happens, and so the conversation for Watson might still be there. We'll talk more about as far as like legend meta near the tail end of the cast here, but I feel like as the circle moves, the fact that you have to traverse so much open area to get from building to building is so much vastly different than what we experienced from Kings Canyon. Urban, what is either your thought or your guys' team thoughts? And you guys, I'm not trying to pick your mind too much considering you guys are about to boot camp a little bit, but I'm just a little bit curious to see like what you guys are thinking about the map on a competitive standpoint, kind of the pros and cons of each.
Well, I think Kings Canyon, it was kind of like everyone's little baby. Like you could play that map how you wanted to. You could see the pathfinders. There's spots where you could zip above the mountains. And you rotate through there. Pathfinders in the top of it, and sniping down. There's a lot of personality to the map that players could have and how they wanted to play it.
Sure.
Well, I feel like World's Edge has kind of been. It was more, I don't know, like they fine tuned it a bit where they saw how people played Kings Canyon, and this is how they want it to be played now. I feel like you can't have kind of the more free thinking rotates and stuff as you could on
Final
Kings
mouse
Canyon.
map.
Yep.
But I think this map's very open. It is one and a half times bigger.
Something like that.
Yeah, it's something like that, and then especially with your charge rifle, which just instantly beams you when you have to run through 300, 400 meters of just straight field. It's kind of like, okay,
game over.
Yeah. But I like World's Edge. I think, tying into competitive, I don't even know if I can speculate. Like it's going to be such a different game. I think there's teams that excelled so well in Kings Canyon, which will probably have a really hard time in the first few weeks or even months of World's Edge.
Hodsic, what are your initial thoughts?
Pros and cons, very like right off the bat. I think from at least on paper, because I still think even though we're only a week in, I still think it's almost impossible to judge World's Edge on its competitive gameplay just because of the charge rifle. Like I know we're all complaining, I know we all know it's busted, but it really ruins the way I think any map could be played. Because people are omnipresent with the charge rifle. Like I think actually third parties don't my experience, they don't happen as often unless you're in like Capital City. That place is literally impossible to have an isolated fight. But I think third parties overall on the map don't happen as often in like earlier on in the map unless other teams have charge rifles and they can beam from 500 feet out, and it's really, really annoying. I think it really just like kind of cannibalizes the way that map is supposed to be played. But I think Kings Canyon, for example, is a great I think it's a great pub map. If you just want to land, pub stomp, go at it, great. I think World's Edge will play better competitively once we get a little bit of the balance issues fine-tuned. Because Kings Canyon, to me, did not feel like a map designed for 20 teams. It felt like maybe 15 max.
Sure.
It's competitively, that map is very claustrophobic. World's Edge feels a little bit better, at least in ranked, when we have all these like stacked lobbies and stuff like that. It feels less congested. Like you have a little bit more room to breathe. The chokes are a little bit rough to rotate through, but like I said, everything is rough to rotate through because the charge rifle exists in its current state. It makes not only rotations very difficult, I find myself picking up way more shield cells than I normally would because the economy is rough with a charge rifle. You just get sliced and diced left and right from multiple teams trying to rotate, and you always feel like you're just battling for shield cells. So I don't think we can fully evaluate this map until we can get a better weapon balance down.
One of the things that I've noticed, though, I think most importantly, because I think you're absolutely right. You kind of had, to a level, almost like 3 different lanes going north to south when it was Kings Canyon. You had slums to run off to airbase to gauntlet to Thunderdome, and Skulltown's kind of in that mix as well. Then you had, of course, all the way through the river, you had things like containment, you had cage, you had destroyed cascades, you had water treatment, then you have everything from relay all the way down through swamp. This map, it feels like as you go from POI to POI, not only is there a little bit of a journey you have to take, but more importantly, one of the biggest pros that I found is that there's actually sustainable loot as you go from POI to POI. On Kings Canyon, if you don't land in a major area, you don't have loot. In this one, you've got the sniper mountain that isn't listed, but it's got 8 or 9 different loot boxes that are there. You have the hot springs area in the hillside outpost, which is also really great. You've even got that space that's in between Outlook and Capital City that's actually pretty decent as well. That kind of connects through that tunnel now that the vaults are there, which we'll talk about here in a minute. But that was one of the biggest things that I noticed as far as pros is, competitively speaking, you would think, at least on paper, because we haven't seen it in practice yet, that the ability to land somewhere more quote-unquote isolated is not nearly as punishing as it may have been on Kings Canyon, because it really did feel like teams that did not go to a main POI drop were typically on the lesser end of loot. I mean, the loot tables are the loot tables, but it really did feel like if you didn't drop in a high-tier loot spot, you were kind of screwed pretty early on in the game like Kings Canyon. I don't know what your guys' thoughts on that would be, but...
I think I've seen a lot of complaints like a couple days 1 through 3 about everyone's like, there's no loot on this map, there's no loot, but I think quite the opposite. I think
so too.
I think
the
there's
loot,
a lot of scopes. That's what people are talking about too.
I think the loot on average is a lot better than Kings Canyon. I think the problem is with this map, I wouldn't say it's a problem, but more of you have to play it differently. You can't 50-50 on this map. The individual loot density per spawn is a lot lower, so it's more spread out. The loot's better, but it's just more spread out. So 50-50ing is so much harder on this. You find yourself landing, if you land with another team at the same spot, you're going to find yourself more often, I think, than Kings Canyon going, where the hell is the damn gun? So I think 50-50s are a lot harder on this map, and that's not a bad thing necessarily. You just have to, I think, alter the way you play a little bit.
Do you guys have any personal favorite spots so far, kind of with that in mind, as far as, if you're dropping, whether it be ranked or casually, any spots that just hit that chord for you?
Maybe. I like Lava City or Sorting Factory, man. Those are my two. Those are my two favorite spots right now. Both have pretty consistent cargo bots with a lot of times vault keys. Definitely Sorting Factory. I think that's almost a guaranteed one. And then a ton of loot, and then a ton of open space to manage a fight. You're not really trapped. If you get an initial bad drop, you can kind of scramble and get somewhere else. So I think that's great for pubs. I would be surprised. I don't know. How do you guys think that's going to play in ranked high levels? Because it is relatively contested when I'm going now, still basically high gold, low plat. But I don't see a lot of people, at least streams that I watch, of Predators dropping in Sorting Factory very often.
There's I can't speak for everyone, but I definitely know there are a couple teams that absolutely love it.
Commit to it.
And I see them there quite frequently. I know I see a lot of the bigger streamers. Like I was playing with Diego Soares, and he loves going there, for example. There's some, I think Fnatic likes going there, but I don't know. I wouldn't judge any of these spots competitively for any of these teams. I think some of them just like landing at certain places. But for the most part, I think it's pretty spread out. I do think the places I did find that there's more than, so there's 3 vaults active per map. I think there's 4 total, right? But there's 3 that are active. The game spawns more than 3 keys. So the vaults are going to be pretty high traffic areas almost throughout the entire map, or throughout the entire round. And more often than not, you see them at least 2 of them almost always looted. So I certainly think that's something to take into account, the consistency of how often you can get vaults. Because, that looks nuts, right? It sets you up for the whole match.
Urban, what are your thoughts? Favorite spots personally, or as a team so far?
I have a few spots I might like landing. Train Yard, or I think it's called Train Yard or something like that. I like when I'm just popping, I like that. I think it's kind of the depth of it's kind of interesting, the way it flows around. But overall, I think there's spots I just don't like. There's a spot where I'll go there and I'm like, why am I here? I don't want to be here. But I think something to go with the 50-50s, I think Hodsic was talking about. I think the competitive scenes definitely have to kind of adapt to the new map because I mean, when you're breaking down the map, you have what 14, 15 POIs maybe.
Sure.
You have things like Capital City, which can easily gear multiple teams. I think a big thing that the competitive scene's got to learn is that just because you're in the same POI, you don't need to fight. You know, going to Sorting Factory, you
They'll
can
never
fit
learn. They'll never learn.
you can fit 2 teams in there, right? Like you can fit 2 teams in
Yeah.
Sorting Factory.
And then go
get
your
them
separate
geared.
ways after you get your gear.
Yeah, so I think like I mean the competitive scene is gonna have to learn this new map specifically when we get into scrims and we start getting these, LAN tournaments, whatever they're, whenever they come. That you can put 3 teams in capital and just as long as you're not like, fully dedicating to the fight, just keep your resources back, don't get shot, and you can get geared up. Like, if you're
Mhm.
consistently be like, oh, let's poke these guys, let's poke these guys, then you know what? Something's gonna happen because there's not infinite cells in the world, but like teams gotta learn how to kind of cut their losses and just take what they have. It's gonna be enough and move on with it.
Yeah, it's very interesting because like I think when we were all playing Kings Canyon, we were all vying for more POIs. So like every team could at least have one place to land and not have to 50-50. It seems like you can do it on this map. I mean, you can, yeah, like Urban said, you can comfortably land multiple teams at certain places and come out with decent loot.
Sure.
So it's gonna be interesting to see which teams. There's definitely gonna be teams that like that ego challenge like crazy because they just want all the loot and they're greedy, and it'll be, I think, it'll be either awful to play or it could work out pretty decently. We'll have to see.
Fair enough. I will say one of my personal favorite spots so far is right in the Hot Springs area, which is where where Hodsic and my team of 3 got a little shuffle head
Yes.
at one point in time.
Got clapped, honestly.
Well, I mean, okay, you know what? We'll save that for conversation. That little sniper headshot with the 6x scope, by the way, it was a nice little flick. If I was streaming,
Yeah,
I would have clipped it and I would have embarrassed you on the Twitters. I wouldn't actually.
You wouldn't be the first. You wouldn't be the first. It's okay.
I like it.
But actually, again, that's kind of one of those spots, because you could go from Hot Springs and then you can either make a decision. You can either rotate up towards Train Yard, you can rotate down through Fissure, or you can rotate over into the fuel depot area. And it's kind of like, it's only like a slow mid-tier drop, but it's enough, and that's the biggest thing, is there's enough spaces outside of main POIs to facilitate 3 people. Like, I remember, back in the early days of Kings Canyon, dropping, like, oh, let's just try dropping Cascades or River's End. Let's just see if we can make it happen. And nobody left with good loot. It's just like, maybe someone had blue or purple, luckily, but it's typically like, all right, I've got the weapons that I want, but no attachments to it, or I don't have any kind of healing. I feel like that struggle's not nearly as strong. And now, speaking of things to kind of eliminate that struggle, vaults, you guys had kind of mentioned briefly.
Ooh, yeah.
You guys said 4 vaults, 3 are active at a time. Vault keys to open, randomly dispersed. Who knows how many there actually are in each game that loads up. But what are your guys' thoughts as far as vaults? Because my initial reaction when I saw the vault for the first time, my first hours of gameplay, I was like, whenever this opens, this is going to be the biggest power spike in the planet. If you get that loot, you just hold W, you should think, for a while, unless it's late game. But it kind of felt like subconscious, like, well, this is like a really big pub mechanic. Like, this is a pub draw. Like, oh, let's go find the vault keys and then go rush the vault. But I kind of want to get your guys' thoughts on both a casual standpoint as well as a competitive standpoint of how vaults will impact either the loot dispersal or that power spike that we're mentioning, as far as when you can feel that viability to, again, get aggressive and just, hardcore fight.
Yeah, I mean, I'll go first. My first thought about this vault is that it's an incredibly interesting mechanic for casuals specifically too, because it's so cool to just jump into this game and then have your own little mini game. And if you're just jumping into Apex, you say, "Oh, my friends are playing it. Let me download it. I found this vault key. What does it do? Oh, my map changed." You find it. That's something that I think, from a design perspective, is really smart to reward players like that. But in competitive, I just see it. I thought it was going to be such a huge part of where teams ultimately decide to try to land and how they rotate, because you're right. If you get that gear, I mean, you are set up for the mid to late game easily, and any early game fights. I'm curious how people are going to start camping those. Again, Sorting Factory has a great rotation to the vault near Lava City, and almost a guaranteed cargo bot with a vault key. These things I feel like are going to have a huge impact in competitive, but that's one thing I wish that the vaults actually had, was something like a weapon or a scope. I think it's enough with the gear to get 2 people pretty fully equipped, though, and that's huge.
No, absolutely. I'm definitely curious to see if teams. I'm sure you will see every now and then, like a niche strategy of someone camping it. I think teams are already valuing very much rotating early in this map.
Yeah.
At least, I mean, we haven't scrimmed, so we don't know quite yet. But even in a lot of the like sweatier teams or players I'll play with that like really care about RP and grinding rank 1, they're like get to the middle of the circle because these circles are actually I don't know if they'll change because in Kings Canyon they changed a lot over
Sure.
time, but these circles are a lot easier to read than Kings Canyon. So you can very quickly get to the middle of the circle and for the most part be all right and secure some decent placement. I think teams are going to value that regardless over the vault. I don't think you'll see many teams trekking across the map to get really good loot because usually in competitive you can't really do that.
Right.
I think it's probably going to go down to the teams that just land around those areas. They'll probably be the ones that kind of get the vault by default if they happen to get the key, you know. So it'll be up to which teams claim which spots, I guess.
Yeah, I wonder how that power struggle will be. Just like let somebody get.
I'm already picturing a instance where, like, for instance, you land Geyser, you find good loot, you don't find a vault key, but you just camp right inside that cave and just wait for the team with the vault key to come through.
Yeah, well, that's one thing you see right now. I mean, it's a what 3-second delay, right, to open a door. They have to stand still 3 seconds. Like, I feel like there's gonna be a lot. Like, you get 2 guys with even just arc stars, just like,
oh, you're screwed.
That's first down right there. Like, you know.
Yeah.
I think the mechanics of kind of weighing out, like, do you camp the door, make sure no one else gets it, deny other people the loot even if they have the vault key, is going to be a pretty big mechanic for teams that are in those areas like Geyser or Train Yard and all those things where they're right above it. Like, do you loot it, go there rather than rotation? A big thing Hodsic said was, maybe you get a vault key, but the closest one's halfway across the map. Like, you make the trek. I own a ranked game. We all had grays. We had 3 grays. I'm like, let's make the trek. And we got there. We're like, oh, dude, this looks great. And you have to, you're like, well, now I have to get back in the zone. Like,
yeah.
Great. But I mean, I enjoy it. I think, I'd much rather everyone have better gear than everyone be in gray. I'd rather see a bunch of purples and golds than a bunch of grays. And I know we had a game in ranked, I think it was yesterday or 2 days ago, where we had a vault key. We ended up killing someone else who obviously had a vault, and we had me and Bert wearing all golds, all 4. And then Lax, I think Lax had 3 golds. They're kind of like, okay, who wants to fight now? Like, but I don't know. I think it's a great thing for being a bit more consistent. Especially, I don't think we talked about it though, but the loot bots, like even being able to choose, to being able to actually time it right and get the golds. I think it's a great thing for kind of making sure everyone's a bit more geared than it used to be. Like, you definitely see more people running golds now, more people with purples, and I think that's a great thing for the competitive where you don't just have one team. It was like 3 purples and a team just 3 grays because suck.
I think it also brings. I'm glad you brought up the loot bot, the cargo bot situation as well, because it obviously does get you more kitted out to a certain level. But now that you're starting to feel, and this is more of a ranked question to see what your guys' take is, and more of just a posed question whether or not it's true or not is again why we're debating it. It almost feels like, again, when you got into competitive mode of Kings Canyon, everyone's like, oh shoot, like that syringe we passed up on, you can't pass up on those things anymore. Does it feel like shielding, because you're running blues, purples, and golds more often, is becoming harder to stay at full HP these days? I kind of get the initial mindset, in Hodsic, you'll probably appreciate this. It almost feels like when that realm patch happened, where it was so hard to be at full gold, you're fully armored up. Do you still feel that struggle now? And do you think that's healthy if you do, I guess is the question. We'll go ahead and start with you, Hodsic.
Not so much. Honestly, I actually find myself passing up shield cells a lot. Just because, if anything, I don't have a big enough bag. The only thing, like I kind of touched on earlier, honestly, I think the only thing that really makes me feel like I'm devoid of shield cells is the charge rifle. That thing just just melts your economy more than it will melt you. It's pretty wild. But no, I think there's actually a pretty sizable amount of meds on the map. I've never really found myself too many situations where I'm like, damn, there's like just nothing here.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah, and staying at full health is a little easy. I don't know. I feel like a lot of when you're out of loot passing, I'm never worried about not having enough, especially if gear, because most of that loot is then now dispersed. I mean, that's what cargo bots and vaults have done. More of that loot that you're not finding on the ground, it's on players. So if you're able to win that fight, you can then obviously
the reward level's a lot higher, it feels like, for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah.
Interesting thought. Okay, so let's just go away from the loot side of things and talk about crypto. Thankfully, we've got a player in this group of 4 that loves crypto. But I want to get your guys' your first reactions. Again, let's just say first 4 hours playing either as him or versus him. What was the thoughts on crypto? We'll start with you, Urban, to start this one off.
Well, I actually haven't unlocked crypto yet. He's
Oh,
still
okay.
locked up.
So we'll get you as far as
Still
playing
grinding.
against
Still
him.
grinding him out.
I need more. Yeah, you need more of those legend tokens. Just don't have enough. I mean, I think leading up to him, I know, like, even talking from a competitive stance, like Lax is our Watson player, and I'm like, so how does it feel, finally be able to play or get off Watson? And I think it was really underwhelming because overall it's looking like maybe you'll see 1 or 2 cryptos in competitive, but overall Watson still just plays such a big key. And I mean, I think the biggest like leaks that everyone thought they heard was that crypto's EMP is going to take out Watson's alts and all these things and disable players. And then when it came out, wasn't the case. So now it's kind of like, is he really worth it? You see a lot of teams when people heavily use them that just drop their armor, hold the door without the armor.
Exactly.
EMP comes out, then they pick it up. So it's hard to say. I mean, I found him a little underwhelming, but I think I don't think you're going to see really a meta changing characters until like Wraith or someone gets a hard nerf, rather than, we were talking about it actually yesterday in the vehicle. Like, that's the biggest change, changes to come to Wraith to allow someone like Crypto to come in. Like,
Sure.
Unless you make it just so amazing that it's just like, you just hate seeing the other team have one, you're not really going to see someone like Crypto come into the meta.
Well, my first thought on that is that Wraith plays so much more of that aggressive kind of entry fragger role versus Crypto, where he would be taking more of the Watson support player style role. So it would really dramatically shift if you were going to take Wraith out, what those compositions would be. Because I'm not sure you'd see players, like Ace or like that aggressive style, then switch on to a Crypto, or what space would then open up for another champion to, basically fill that role. Or if that would switch on to a path, I'm curious to see how that would actually impact.
Yeah.
My 2 things on Crypto particularly are, I think the shield swap, dropping your shield and picking it back up, is such a hard counter to him. And I feel like it's not enough of a penalty that you're receiving. It's just such a millisecond that you do it and get it back that I feel like there's not enough of a window of vulnerability. I could see if it was. I feel like that's one of the big things holding him back too. And the fact that the pylon isn't destroyed. I personally had a hard time seeing how he would take anybody's spot unless those 2 things change.
Yeah, my biggest surprise is, and I'm going to save your perspective to last, Hodsic, because I think you're going to bring a different side of the coin here. The 2 biggest surprises was the drone bot is one shot. Literally anything. Shoot it once, it's gone. The second was the EMP, like you guys mentioned, not taking away certain things that we kind of maybe expected that it would. But even beyond that, I mean, the armor swap conversation is an interesting one. And in case you're somebody out there who's not really familiar with what we're talking about, of course, it kind of gives you an arc star effect where you get disrupted, you slower movement left to right, and it also takes away a portion of your shielded. But if you just drop that shield, it doesn't take anything away. The only way to fix that would be in the counter argument would be, well, do you just say that the EMP destroys shielding in that area? Well, that seems overpowered because then, you want to be able to reward the skill guy, be able to, swap armors very quickly. I think that's definitely a high skill mechanic that should stay in the ballpark. But even beyond that, I felt like just the EMP disruption, I was expecting it to last longer than it currently does as well, because you figure you're flying this drone in. That means your team is going to be playing a 2v3. Yeah, you get information. Yeah, you get this EMP. But by the time they close the gap and don't get affected themselves, the EMP dispersal's faded off. And typically, either a battery is either almost done or at least a shield cell gets popped. Hodsic, what are your initial thoughts? Because you're the resident, crypto main, we'll call it for right now. You play a lot of them. What were your initial thoughts on crypto and how are you feeling about him now?
I think initial thoughts were very similar to what everyone else was thinking. Holy crap, this EMP looks nuts. I do agree that the EMP is a little underwhelming overall. I think his main strength actually is not even his EMP. It's if anything, it's kind of just like a cherry on top. I think his main strength is the ability to get information for free, which is one of the biggest things that's huge in these. It's tough. He fills such a similar role to Watson in terms of how you play ranked, which is you don't play the character at all, basically. I think in ranked and Watson, like high level ranked, people hold W. If you're on a team that's just holding W, both Crypto and Watson are effectively useless. And I think it's the way a lot of people are playing him right now. I do think there is some merit to him. I think you'll still see a lot of the basic carbon copy vanilla Wraith path. Watson, I think you'll still see a lot of that. Because crypto is not really a just throw anybody on that character and have him work like Watson is.
Sure.
You need someone to be a crypto player, and your team also needs to understand how to play around a crypto. So he's very difficult to, I think, to fit in a team. I think it can work. I'm certainly going to try it out a lot because, like I said, I think the ability, if you can maneuver, there's so much cover on the map to maneuver his drone and get a lot of information. Because the way competitive plays out is it's basically, here's the first circle. Let's get a position. Okay, here's the next circle. Where do we need to move? Here's the next circle. Where do we need to move? And he alleviates the pressure of that process so much. Most of the time, my team in particular, as soon as we see the next circle, I mean, most teams, we're immediately like, let's get as much information as we can. Let's make the most informed rotation that we possibly can.
Sure.
Because in a game like this, competitively, if you're rotating blindly, you're just dead. That's straight up. If you have no idea what you're getting into, and sometimes it happens where you just kind of have to brute force a rotation, you're probably going to die. And he alleviates that so much. And this is where I think where he really shines. And we don't get to see it yet because no one's really try-harding and ranked that hard, where we have 17 teams in zone 3.
Right.
But yeah, no, I think his ability, I think he's going to cater a lot more to certain playstyles like bunker, for teams that bunker down a lot. For example, if you're dropping middle of the map and you're only playing hard rotations, you're not playing to get really that many kills, you're playing hard placements, I think a crypto Watson team could see a lot of success because you can easily plan out all of your rotations, and it makes moving around the map so much easier. Again, it's hard to say any of that though still because we haven't seen any scrims or any competitive yet. So it's all, I think there is a place for him. I don't think you'll see much of the formula shifting toward crypto. I think only select teams will run them if they do. But I think it'll be interesting to see. I think there is some place for him.
It's one of those more. Go ahead, Urban.
Oh, what I was gonna say is, what I will say is, I've noticed a couple times where I've been stung by it pretty hard is any teams that aren't running Watson right now. Like the thing with Watson is, it's kind of like a large flashing light saying, "Hey, I'm here." You know, like Watson's there.
Yeah.
When someone doesn't have a Watson, you can walk up to their house, be at their door, and you have no idea they're there. And that's where crypto could be huge. I think if Watson remains main meta, crypto as much isn't like the intel we're gathering isn't as huge. But if Watson takes a step back, whether she gets nerfed or something else comes out, then crypto, I think that ability, like I don't even know how we played before Watson. Like it's like the amount of times where there's no Watson. I walk into a house and I'm like, okay, this is our house. Like there's no Watson wall. I turn the corner, there's a 3-man in a corner just shooting me. I'm
Oh
like,
my god.
what happened?
Yeah.
Like why? So I feel like if Watson kind of takes a step back, crypto could be huge. It's just like I feel like she's kind of because of her walls and stuff, she kind of just says, "Hey, I'm here. Stay away from me."
Yeah.
So it's kind of like teams tell you where they are rather than having to find it currently in this meta.
I'm glad that you brought that up. So we got two different sides of the coin here. We've got, the pros of crypto kind of seem like he does favor that slow, methodical play style where you could go that 150 meters. Okay, we know that these 3 buildings are open for us to rotate through. Let's go ahead and make that play now. Perfect, you're there. The negative side of the coin, it seems like his impact when it comes to a team fight is obviously very minimal, whether it be because he's got the EMP. So when it comes down to potential pros and cons, what would you say are the biggest ones? And is there potentially just the fix of, hey, okay, we know that he's really good when it comes down to, as Hodsic has argued, getting the information gathering, getting the ability to know where your rotations, like what your path of your rotation is going to be, at least a little bit more clearly. But he suffers a little bit as far as having effectiveness in a team fight because his EMP doesn't do as much as we thought it would. Would you say that a proper balance maybe makes him more competitively viable or just casually viable if his drone gets a buff in HP where it no longer gets blown up in one shot, and his EMP maybe lasts a little bit longer or doesn't affect teammates? Does he become top center?
If it didn't affect teammates, I think he'd
instantly be there. Yeah.
He'd skyrocket.
What if you just made it so rather than just an EMP, you actually did health damage too? So whether or not you have armor on, it would do 50 damage. You take it off, 50 health.
Well, or if you have no shield, it does health damage. Or if you have a shield, it prioritizes the shield damage. That way, it's just too easy to counter his EMP. You can shoot
Mhm.
it. You can obviously it's such a large recharge time, and you can shield swap as well. I mean, if you're in trouble and ranked and high level, I think players like from what I've seen casting a lot of pros, for the decisions I've seen is that they go for the safest like thing. Like I know intellectually this could be
Mhm.
better and we have all this info, but like at the end of the day, like we're in trouble. We need to bunker down. Are we counting on a Watson and fences and pylon, or are we
Sure.
counting on the crypto EMP? And I feel like people will just be a little safer with Watson.
Oh, I
Crypto
wasn't
or something.
saying I don't think crypto will ever replace Watson. As long as Watson recharges shields, because right now
Oh
that's
yeah,
huge.
for
I
sure.
don't think he'll ever replace her. I'm thinking there might be some viability. Again, we have to see. I
With
think there
her.
might be a
So,
viability to do crypto and Watson.
so what we were
That could
talking
be
about
cool.
yesterday, and let me know what you guys think. Like, what if they took Wraith? Right, you have a 100-meter TP. What if during that TP you couldn't Q, you couldn't go into your Wraith form? So no matter what, you couldn't circumvent. Because right now you can hop in your TP, press Q, run by a team, and then drop
Right.
behind them. Right, which kind of makes it so you can just get a free rotate no matter what. If you got rid of that, you can still you still have a bit easier to rotate, but you
Right.
can't just go through teams.
Mhm.
Because the big thing with Watson right now is like, I mean, with a low profile, huge hitbox, no mobility, it's kind of rough running here without a Wraith or anything like that.
Yeah, you
True.
need that.
So
Yeah.
so even if you do that, Wraith would still be good, but it would open up, maybe you don't run Wraith. Then, if you're not running Wraith, you don't run Watson. So it really opens up the competitive meta to allow a bit more happening.
Okay. Evan, do you have a thought? Looked like you're about to take a deep breath.
Well, no. I mean, there's a lot of thoughts that came up. It's an interesting idea. Pros and cons with it. Pros and cons with that for sure. As far as the way they want to balance her, it would really depend on a designer's perspective on what they feel is right for her. I mean, you could easily, if you want to trade off and not completely nerf, take away that high level Q inside your ultimate, and then obviously maybe add a little bit of movement speed on the ult because that's part of the benefits of the Q as well during it. So you're sacrificing the invulnerability. But yeah, I don't know. I'm just not sure they want to do that to Wraith. It seems like they do not want to nerf Wraith.
Yeah, Wraith's their baby.
She's
Yeah, I don't
fun.
know.
That's the thing is
Yeah.
like that mobility is fun. I would hate to see
Right.
a world where we're getting rid of some of the unique aspects of the game as a whole because a character, part of her kit or whatever it happens to be is a little bit stronger than maybe other characters that are being introduced. So to that light, let's just go ahead and just legend tier list. Where are you at kind of right now, just very quickly, as far as top to bottom, who's at the top, who's at the bottom? It doesn't have to be in any particular order, just who are your strongest, who are your weakest, and maybe some adjustments to either to make it more competitively balanced, through and through.
I don't think, at least in terms of like the strongest changes, very much. Obviously, Wraith Pathfinder is still Pathfinder is still really strong despite his nerf, and Watson are very very ideal here still. I think Bangalore is an honorable mention now. Her smokes are actually insane. They're borderline
The
blinding.
new smoke effect is wild.
They're good.
You cannot
They're
see
good.
anything in that. Her ult is not a simple like you can't just disrespect her ult like you used to be able to. That thing can clap you. Jibby, unfortunately, he's just too big of a target. That's his biggest
Yes.
issue. Like his
Yes.
skill set is insane now. He actually feels really good to play when you're not the target. Like
Protection dome
he
is
can-
dope. The new
he
change
can
of the dome is
chuck
dope.
he can chuck his shield so far. It's obviously so much better. He can chuck his ult so much further, and you get it so much more often. He feels so good to play, except when someone's shooting you. And that's just
that's all the time.
Yeah, and that's and in a competitive
That's a
setting,
gimme.
in a competitive setting, it's just he's just too big. It's that simple. But yeah, I don't think it changes too much. Bangalore, I think, is a little bit stronger.
Yeah, she's
Other
better
than
than
that,
Lifeline, I think.
yeah, it's a little bit unfortunate that it's great that Wraith and Pathfinder are so much fun to play and all that, but it's a little unfortunate that the game centers around those two characters because they're such big fan favorites and because they are inherently pretty fun to play. It's very delicate that if you want to nerf them, it could very easily turn off a large part of your player base.
Right.
Because a lot of people don't want their favorite character nerfed, especially if they don't feel fun to play anymore. That could very easily make people stop playing the game. On top of whatever boring meta could be ushered because of no mobility or something. But I think mobility will always reign king.
Do you still have Bloodhunter and Mirage still near the bottom?
Absolutely. Bloodhound at this point just needs to be reworked. He's just a antiquated crypto.
Sure. Evan, thoughts as far as where you
well,
have your player
it's interesting.
list?
I played a lot of Blood. speaking from the perspective of not a guy playing in Poland, I'm a guy who plays Apex and, helps watch and do those things. I found that Bloodhound changes are nice. They're good, feels good changes. I'd still put them in the middle of the pack. I think when you're talking high level, does it really matter if you're talking about the 5th through the 10th, pick that you're never going to pick in a ranked or high level game? I'm not sure, but I think it's Wraith and Path and Watson. If anything, I think Path got stronger because of this map and the mobility and the verticality of the map. I think Bang did get stronger as well. I think Crypto's right outside of that because of the value of what people know, how they play with Watson, with Wraith, with Pathfinder, and not wanting to go too heavy too quickly as far as changes. But Gibraltar's that one that I wish could come to the light. We talked about it a lot. His shield's amazing. He's got great team play. It's just he's too shiny on the map and he's too big for being that shiny. The blue shield or the orange shield and the huge shield on his gun, as well as the huge hitbox. I mean, it's just like push this guy. He's clearly able to be killed quickly. And that's like the one thing that I don't know how to get around except continuing to buff fortify. I seriously don't think they can change his hitbox because it would not be to the model of the character. You'd have to change the model. So it's a tough one. I don't really know what to do with him, but I think he's close if that just wasn't an issue.
I think if the more and more we just go without playing him, eventually he's just going to be so busted we can't ignore him.
That's
so. Actually, before the before Watson came out, I was actually for probably a month and a half. I was actually a Jibby player. I was probably the only one at the time. This is before any of his buffs.
I remember that.
Before any of his buffs, I'm pretty sure Bert hated it because he had to ferry around a big guy. But I was playing him yesterday, and I've been pubbing with him a bit. And the state he's in, if any character dropped out, I'd probably a 3-man comp setup. I'd probably want to play the I'd probably play Jib. If I had to add anyone else into this right now, if it went to 4-man or if let's say Path got hard nerfed, I'd want to bring Jib in and I'd play him.
Wow.
I think the amount of time you have to put in though for Jib to actually learn his mechanics, close, it took me hours and hours to learn close range Jib because
Very different.
you have to think you have to hold out your ADS shield for a second or two to even get the have it come out. So to have it come out at the right time and not just to be useless standing still, he's if you have Overwatch or you have all those games that have all the different legends, okay, this is how easy it is to use. 1-star, 2-star, 3-star. Jib's just he's on it. He's
a 10-star.
Yeah, he's really hard to use, but if you know how to use him, he's very good. I don't think enough teams are willing to kind of push for it. But I think a lot of people sleep on him. Once you learn how to use Jib, he's in a class of his own. He's really good.
His ultimate, especially with how many of the chokes. I mean, there was a ranked game I was playing the other day against a Jibby where we had to go through Capital City over down towards that whole Hot Springs kind of fuel depot area and that one zip line tower. There was a Jibby up there just waiting for the rotation, and as soon as 2 teams came through, he just dropped his defensive apart, picked up 5 kills because it's just he shuts down choke points like that.
Yeah, I know. Last night we're running, and I think the Energy Squad tried ballooning on us, and before they even landed, I saw them just coming and just instantly drop that, and it's just before they even land, they're taking their shields are gone. There's just not much you can do about it.
Nothing you can do about it for sure.
Yeah,
and he's terrifying. He is terrifying to 1v1 if if you're a pro player and you're playing another pro player that's jibbying and you have to 1v1 him. I genuinely fear that because he just naturally soaks up so much. You have to hit him so many more times than he has to hit you on top of his personal shield. I definitely think he can be used. I think he is so close. I think he's in probably the top 6. It's just man, he's rough in a team fight.
So I think the biggest thing that has to happen and put Jib into the class where it generally is worth using is the fact that he was the reason I used him in the first place is he was the first infinite poke character. I'd run longbow, and you could hit me with your longbow. If we trade, I don't take any damage. You take damage. Thing is with Watson having the shield regen, everyone has infinite poke. I think if that went away, if Watson found a nerf where she didn't just give everybody infinite poke, the Jibby infinite poke would be huge. Whether you're using a charge rifle or a longbow scout, it's huge not using resources. Not having to use the batteries or the cells. It just there's better options right now.
So
how close is Caustic? That's why no one mentions Caustic ever. Do you guys ever play Caustic? What would it take to play Caustic?
Smaller hitbox.
Okay, same thing.
I mean,
he's just as easy. he doesn't have the survivability that Jibby does. That's his downside. His abilities are insane. I literally will never. I don't care how bad the team is. I will never push the house with a caustic in like ranked, because caustic's greatest strength is to stall in a house until a third party shows up.
Mm.
That's like, you cannot push a house with a caustic unless you're absolutely suicidal. People will kill you. I think his ult is insane. He's just a big target too, and he can't survive as well as Jibby.
So if you were, let's say, okay, you're putting on the dev cap, you're dev for a day, would you agree that it's not buff Jibby, but it's the fact that other characters are just too strong?
Yeah.
I think if I was a dev, I would love to get away from, or just as a player, I honestly would love to get away from just Wraith Pathfinder.
Okay.
Personally, I think it'd be really. I think we're so close to seeing a meta where we like teams play to their strengths and they pick different characters. I think we're really, really close to it. I think you're still going to see primarily a lot of Wraith Pathfinder Watson, but I do think you'll finally start seeing some teams branch out. There were some teams running Bangalore before. She's even stronger now. Might be a possibility. I do think you'll see a couple teams running crypto as well. I think there is some viability to new strategies.
Fair enough.
But for the most part, you're still gonna. I would love to get away from that. Just, hey, pick these 3 characters.
Cool. Fair enough. Let's jump into weapons. Okay, I know charge rifle is going to be a pretty heavy consideration. We'll talk about that second up. But I want to talk first and foremost about the fact that disruptors and skull piercers are no longer there. Outside of the charge rifle being involved, let's say the charge rifle doesn't exist, hypothetically. What does no disruptors and no skull piercers do to the balance? Especially when you consider things like the fact that Anvil hammer points and that is still available for SMGs, pistols, and ARs. But beyond that, you also have the double tap now being in the mix for things like the G7 Scout. What does this do for balance as far as your personal opinion when it comes to having no more disruptors and skull piercers outside of the charge rifle being there? What does that kind of do as far as your weapon play so far, Raynday?
I think really when you look at economy, the way disruptors alternator and the way that they operated are similar to how charge rifle ruins your economy as well. I think the only saving grace is there's a lot more gold shields around that I've noticed, and that does help you to not be as heavily punished for losing your shields in 4 shots or for charge rifle things. I still think that it was a good change though. And charge rifle aside, I feel like the wingman became almost better because you don't have to spend half the game looking for a skull piercer. You don't have to try to luck into that. You just get a little bit of extra bonus damage on the headshot, which is still very solid. And unfortunately, longbow is kind of irrelevant. So I think not irrelevant, but I just feel like until charge rifle is adjusted, it's not the weapon you're picking up. So ultimately, I feel like they almost traded places a little bit. There's still a ton of shield economy disruption. It's just not coming from the disruptor rounds this season.
Fair enough. Urban, what are your thoughts?
I actually really like the change. I mean, even with this, it's just a really annoying gun to run into. But the skull piercer change, I really enjoy the wingman. I find myself now like I'll pick up like maybe an R9 off the start, and if I don't find my attachments, don't find the ammo, I'll just change over to wingman, whether it's like a 6-shot wingman, just because you don't have to like. It's a very good economy gun I find now. If you're not really getting what you need, it's a really easy gun to change into because there's no skull piercer.
Yep.
If that makes sense.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Hodsic?
Definitely. I actually I loved skull piercers. It was nice finding them, but I think it's actually the game feels a lot better without them, because you didn't get that random RNG of facing a longbow or wingman and all of a sudden your health is just destroyed. Now it's very consistent, which is good. Love the scout double tap. I think it's actually insane. I think when you see charge rifle nerfed, I think scout
Same.
double tap, you will see probably once people start getting better at it, because even I love the scout and I still need to work on it. It's insane, man. I don't know why they buffed the damage on the scout, because it went from 30 to 34 on top of giving it a double tap hop up. It's insane now. I think it melts faster than I think if you can hit consistent headshots or just body shots, it kills so fast. The Eva double tap, I suck with the Eva, so it's not that great for me.
I think Peacekeeper's still better, man.
Well,
Yeah,
I feel like the
I
Eva,
think it does. Yeah.
running double tap with Eva, you're always in the close range, right? Like guys are right in front of you. I feel like you need the ability to improvise in that circumstance. And I find when I'm
It's a
using
really
double
good way
tap
of putting
Eva, it locks you into that second shot, and sometimes you don't want that
Yeah.
second shot. So it's like
Right.
I find myself a lot when I'm running, especially if you don't have a purple bolt. Like if you have a gray bolt or no
Oh,
bolt,
it's
and
so
you're
slow.
running double tap, and you're kind of like, "Duh," and you know a second shot has to come out, and you're like, you're kind of like, no, like let me like switch guns or do something
Yeah.
else. You know, you're kind of forced into it. I don't like that. Like I like having options. Like I feel like it just takes away my options.
Also, who can carry 4 stacks of shotgun ammo? That doesn't.
Yeah. It eats through it now. It absolutely eats through it.
So true. My thoughts initially, without the disruptor rounds, the alternator and RE45 have gone back to becoming a useless weapon, at least in
True.
IMO. But let's say the charge rifle doesn't exist. I think that without the skull piercer, and even with the double tap, I feel like the choices between Scout and Longbow are very, very close together. It just comes down to, do you want the ability to take more isolated shots that hit harder? Or if you've got things like a purple stock, purple barrel, that G7 Scout double tap is going to shoot 2 very true shots, and that's going to be disgusting.
And it's very viable close to mid range too.
100% hip
The Scout's
firing
hip
it.
is not bad.
Not at all.
It's
Not bad at all. I mean, like Bangalore says, it's got a similar rate as an AR or whatever. Goodness,
She
Bangalore
still says
voice
there's
lines.
skull piercer. Wingman,
Yeah.
you got to find a
Yeah.
skull piercer for it.
Yeah,
but
broken
Um,
game,
it's
right?
out. Yeah.
And I think but I love the anvils.
Me too.
3x flatline anvil and like Peacekeeper's like one of my new jams.
it's
I
dope.
absolutely love it. It melts really fast. You're like dead before you really. It's really weird when you hear like a single fire flatline or R3. I'm still not like geared to like respect. I'm still like, why is this guy single shooting me? Like, what is he doing? And all of a sudden, I'm like dead. I'm still like trying to like rewire my brain to be like, oh, he could really just destroy you in like half a second. Calm down for a second.
I feel like, again, because charge rifles are the conversation, you definitely feel that you're almost locked into that mid-range, though, when you're using the anvil rounds, which I like. I like that exists. I like the fact that, hey, I have a flatline and I found an anvil. I could use this as my poke weapon for the rest of the game and not have to worry about getting a sniper rifle. And I still have the ability to switch it back to auto.
Yeah.
It's very, very good. What are your thoughts, Herbert, as far as the anvils go?
So I think one of the biggest things, like obviously, it is a good weapon long range. I think the biggest thing, like I knew some people who, with a flatline, like they carry that as their close range, rather than a Peacekeeper or something like that, they carry
Sure.
the flatline. So I think the ability to do, change with the, select fire, or not select fire, but, just select which way you're firing, whether or not you're using the anvil or you're not, you're going full auto. If you're using a flatline, that gives you an option of, having the same gun, the same slot, be both a long range and a close range option.
Yeah.
So I think when people, I think I've watched a bit, and I feel like a lot of people end up just getting like locked into the anvil. They don't remember you can just hit a key and you're back to full auto. Because I see someone push them, they're still like, dush, dush, and it's dying. It's like, well,
Right.
just, hit a key and you're back to full auto. I think like once people kind of learn the gun better, have a bit more time, it's going to be a really common use if you find it.
Evan, what are your general thoughts as far as
Just a lot of damage. I think Flatline's going to continue to rise. I think it's a great weapon. Honestly, I love the damage per bullet, and it's when you get headshots on that, even hip fire, it's so valuable in an up close fight when you need a little bit of burst. R99, I think, is still going to dominate what people choose. So the R301, I don't think we'll see as much anvil use, because I think people will drop 301s for R99s. But I think if you're running heavy flatline with anvil, it's going to be something people will start to perfect and get better at, and it's phenomenal. It's so fun to play, first of all, from even a casual perspective as well. But I think in high level, it's got a lot of, hey, I've got this one gun, my secondaries not exactly what I want it to be, but this gun covers pretty much all of my bases on being able to contribute to both mid-range, long range, and then close range fights.
Fair enough.
I think, yeah, and I think definitely, I think we didn't even touch on the shotgun buff with the supposedly them being more consistent with the bigger projectiles, but also the new layouts of the buildings, I think, really tailor to Peacekeeper, like
100%.
so hard. There is so much. So that's like I said, like flatline Peacekeeper with anvils, like you really cover all your bases and you do it really well. Flatline's close up is insane too. Its hip fire is nuts. It will drop
Really
you
good.
almost just as fast as an R9. So Peacekeeper is a lot stronger, I think, on this map too. Even more so than Kings Canyon.
Okay, so quickly then, we all know charge rifle. We all know essentially why it's strong. If you were to make one significant change to it, let's just say that, because I'm sure if we wanted to say what would you change about the charge rifle, there's a lot of different options. Let's just go ahead and just take what would you say is the first change you would make to it, or what is the most important change you'd make to the charge rifle? We'll start with you, Raynday.
The first thing I thought about was that the ability to spam it was way too forgiving. those shots need to be meaningful with how much they do. And I think if you at least touch the size of the magazine so that it starts at 3 and can scale up to 6 instead of 7, you're getting to a better position. Doesn't solve the problem. Um, Obviously, you look at damage and you start having to say, is there fall off that you can add? So those would be my two initial impressions to try to change it. Obviously, the damage numbers, people are it's just too easy to poke. But aside from changing the amount of energy ammo you can have, it's just it's such an efficient weapon. You can carry one stack of energy ammo and use a charge rifle all game long.
Yeah.
So I try to just make it a little bit more either time in between shots and a magazine size reduction as far as the base mag.
Fair enough. Urban, thoughts?
So my kind of idea when I saw a weapon like that, a game like this where you have 500, 600 meter stretches and it's, just completely hit scan. The thing I'd want to see, which I feel like a lot of people wouldn't really, might not be happy about, is like I want to see the damage of that be like a third of what it is now. I want it to be guaranteed damage on a rotator, but you're not like killing them. So
Yeah.
like you can guarantee you're rotating through the space. You're gonna have to stop and heal, or even 2 or 3 of those, and you can kill someone. You know, but it's not like it's a punish. It's a punish on a rotate rather than a kill. So rather than you just being like just hitting them, you're kind of like you're a grievance. You're kind of taking away the resources. It's kind of like a long game.
Hmm.
Hodsic?
I've actually been saying it all the time. And I'm like, what? Like, it's hard to center around one thing. I think it could. I think it would feel so much better if you increase like time in between shots or like the wind up. But at the same time, yeah, like the damage is so oppressive and like it's the worst feeling in the world. Even if it's just one shot, it's the worst feeling in the world when you win a fight against a really good team and one of you just literally just gets beamed 400 meters out for 70 damage and you go down. All of a sudden you're in a way like they might not get the kill, but you're in a way worse position. I think the damage, like I get they want to do a hit scan sniper and like adding fall off to that would seem kind of dumb. I think all around the damage just needs to be a lot lower, especially on the wind up. The fact that you don't even have to hit the full blast, but you can almost do a shield cell worth of damage over and over is pretty silly.
So
It'd be an aggressive number drop. Oh, sorry. I was just
no,
gonna say,
go, please.
I feel like it'd be an aggressive number drop. Took it almost down by a third. So it went from the ticks going 3 per tick to 2. And then you also had the main beam going from 45 to something like 30. You basically hitting people for 60 and a little bit more if you're able to headshot most of the clip. Could be a nice feels change so that you don't feel completely ripped of your shield or cracked in one shot. It's a direction. It's kind of an aggressive nerf, but I feel like that might do the job.
Fair enough. Okay, so let's just pose this in a different light because this is, I think, a more important question that'll wrap it all together nicely. Would you rather see it still be a common drop with either rate of fire and damage changes, or would you rather see that and the L-Star switched? So you either get the choice of it's still a common drop, but you change rate of fire and damage on the charge rifle, or it stays the way it is and it swaps spots with the L-Star.
I think probably if we're doing a singular change, just have it swapped. It's honestly, I feel like on average, the gun already is like almost better than a Kraber. The Kraber is like very opportunistic. It opens up windows of opportunity. If you need to like rotate, you can get a quick pick. But the thing is just flat out like insane. I think if it was just a care package weapon, it would feel a lot more balanced.
Fair enough. Urban?
Even in its current state.
I personally I prefer like the damage change, and it remain in the game. I think if you had lower damage, just the ability to have the poke, kind of like, hey, I'm here, here's some damage, rather than just the full kill. But the biggest thing about that though is like with the care package, we currently have the Mastiff, the Kraber, and the L-Star. I'd rather see maybe an L-Star alteration rather than just put it back into the main game, making that more of like a, oh, it's an L-Star, back to the TP, let's get out of here. More of a, we got an L-Star, sweet, because it used to be Kraber, Mastiff, or just like maybe like a gold armor, or a gold backpack. Now it's kind of like half the time you have an L-Star, more than half the time you have an L-Star, and you're kind of like, why am I here? I'd rather see them rework the L-Star and then just damage nerf the what is the gun called? Charge rifle? Yeah, that thing.
Yeah. If I had to choose, I'd go for a swap, but I do think that the L-Star, just tag onto that, should just get an adjustment in some way. I actually really like it way better than it was. I like the on it, and I still feel though that what do you look for in a care package and why is it valuable at high level? Kraber and Mastiff, they're burst weapons. They're incredibly impactful, knock somebody out of a fight type weapons. And an L-Star accomplishes the same job as an R99, essentially, maybe with a little bit of wiggle room there. But I just feel like it either needs to hit harder or it has to be way more in the ammo so you can run that from mid game to late game without worrying about, care package weapon ammo depletion and having to pick something else up.
Yeah, I think if I were to pick, it'd be the same. Just swap the two and then take a look at what the L-Star is actually doing versus what it should be able to do. Okay, fair enough. So kind of finishing up the weapon meta conversation. Current tier list. Let's just go say again, it doesn't have to be in any particular order. Maybe if you want to do it like this is the best weapon, this is the worst weapon, sure. But what are your general tier lists as far as how the weapons go so far? We'll just go down the list. So we'll start with you, Evan.
My favorites, man. I mean, aside from the charge rifle, obviously being the best weapon, I think right now, the scout. I love it. I love the scout. I completely agree with Hodsic. It was one of my favorite weapons. It was my favorite sniper heading into the season. I think it frags. I think it's a ton of fun. I think it takes great use of the double tap hop up, which we talked about the Eva, not quite using it the way that I think is going to make it a top tier shotgun. But it's pretty much my favorite sniper to use consistently. And I think outside of that, I found the wingman to actually benefit quite heavily from that change without having to find the skull pierce. I actually really like it still this season. So those would kind of be my two top picks that I'd say. And aside from that, my third probably be the flatline that I just love using.
Irvin, what are your thoughts on if there is a weapon tier list right now?
I mean, probably my 4 top weapons would have to be, maybe more your usual R9, charge rifle, wingman, peacekeep. Wingman, peacekeep, I think are just huge, especially in the competitive sense, in the top level, where you don't have to be full body peaked forever to get damage out. With a wingman, you can kind of a little strafe peek, don't get hit back, get some nice damage out. You don't have the full commit to a full spray. While I think the lower end of the weapons, I probably just got to throw the hemlock in there because, I mean, before you could throw the thing on single fire, and I think it feels like they slowed that down.
They did.
And then it's like, why would you even use that when you could just grab like a flatline with an anvil? Like,
I thought it would be better.
I just like, I see that weapon, I'm just like, why? Like, can I get something else, please?
So yeah, so like I also was like the single fire on hemlock. It's like at this point you almost never do it. It's pretty terrible now. The burst is actually kind of decent, but my problem is I don't know about you guys, but I don't hit more than 1 or 2 shots per the burst. The burst is just weird to me.
I can't remember the last time I heard a 3-round burst with a hemlock.
The burst melts hard now, but honestly, like you don't see too many people hitting like a full triple burst anyways. And even then, let's just like why? Like I'd rather have something else. But I don't know. For me, I'm kind of similar with Urban. What all those other guns are still really, really good. Except I would bring up the flatline and scout personally, way up there. I think flatline is one of those, like if you're going with an assault rifle, I don't think any of the other two come close.
Sure.
Havoc turbocharger is kind of nuts, but you're not gonna find. I don't know. I feel like that one's still a little bit on this map. It feels something weird sometimes. But I think flatline, you definitely bring that up there. Eva's still kind of hasn't really changed much for me. Obviously, drop the alternator RE because no more disruptors. But yeah, I think everything's pretty much the same except bring up scout and flatline. Except wingman is definitely, I think, even better now. In a good way.
Last thing I'd say though, also, controller players are a thing. Devotion, if you have a controller player. I mean,
Hey.
I don't.
True.
Thing is absolutely nasty. The Havoc is still one of my top 5 favorite weapons to pick up, even without a turbocharger. I still really enjoy it, even with the blue mag. If you've got a purple mag, you can 1v3 in a single clip if you hit your shots. The thing's still absolutely disgusting. But yeah, I'm going to be right on par with you guys as far as that all goes. I'm a little sad to see the alternator go because like that rate of fire weapon, I actually really enjoy. It just doesn't pack as much of a punch anymore, and that's just kind of a sad boy moment.
The disruptor coming out though, like sometimes you'd have to run it without the disruptor. Be like, maybe I'll get it. I feel like I find myself picking it up more now though than I used to. It's still respectable. It's not like you're not going to just demolish a team like maybe you used to with the disruptor. Sorry, but I still I respect the gun more. I can still pick it up early game. Be like, okay, I can do some damage with this.
Yeah,
early game it works still fine. Yeah.
Where I found the alternator actually, it was like kind of like an epiphany actually the other day when we were trying out this one player. Where like the alternator shines, where like the R9 doesn't, and this is like the only place, is that I think it's easier to one clip somebody. Like say you have a fully kitted R9 and alternator, it's easier to one clip somebody with an alternator. You don't do it as fast, obviously, than an R9, but an R9 is very punishing. If you don't one clip somebody, and if you have two equal skilled players, and the one and fully equipped R9 alternator on either, if the guy that does with the R9 does not one clip, it's very easy for the guy with the alternator, if they don't do any like evasive maneuvers or whatever, to one clip. It's actually very consistent. It just doesn't kill as fast.
100%. Yeah.
Like my teammate went up against a very good player, and he had an alternator. The other guy had an R9, and the other guy just missed. He just didn't one clip him with the R9, and my teammate just sprayed him down. The alternator's hip fire is nuts. Yeah, I mean, so is the R9, but he just sat there just holding mouse one on him, and he just melted him down because the guy didn't one clip him. So it's still not bad. I would never take it over an R9, but it's certainly a lot more forgiving than an R9.
The light weapons, I really feel like, have the best dispersal from close range to long range. Like the R99, very good up close. The alternator, you go about 30 steps backwards, super, super good. You go a little bit past that, the R301, very, very good. Beyond that, the Scout, very, very good. I think the light weapons, as far as how it kind of functions from that immediate close range to relatively close to medium to long, actually feels the best. I mean, the heavy weapons, again, the Wingman is kind of like a jack of all trades weapon. You can poke with it at long range. It still serves a purpose up close, but it has a low clip, and then you kind of mention what you will about both the Prowler and the Hemlock as far as how the burst weapons kind of feel. With the select fire, it's definitely viable. That's for sure. But it's just really interesting, I think, just to kind of look at it like that. All right, so we're going to close this thing out here in the near future. So if you guys out in chat have any questions, feel free to start hitting those up. Just put them in the chat room. We'll copy them down. We'll answer them here in a little bit. Final thoughts, though, just on Season 3 as a whole. Let's just start it off. Raynday, how's Ranked going for you so far?
Honestly, it's been fun. I actually didn't play much Ranked last season, and I've really enjoyed the grind here, and it's kind of cool. Everyone's still pushing up. I noticed that in Platinum, when you start getting into those lobbies, that's where you start seeing a lot of the players still pushing Diamond and Predator. So it's changed the game for me as far as it's a great way to get insight into the things that matter at a high level. If you're a casual player watching, if you're someone who's not that high involved in some of the ranked scene or things like that, I definitely suggest it. I'm enjoying it quite a bit, although charge rifle is something you do have to pick up. I don't mind when I'm shooting it. I'm okay when I'm using it.
It's a lot of fun then.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. So I've had a good time in Season 3. I've enjoyed the change of pace.
Urban, how's everything going for you so far?
I mean, I haven't done too much of a ranked grind overall. I think I only really started doing the ranked like 3 days ago. I usually find, I learned after the first ranked season that the queues can be a bit excessive. I'd rather not have to go over to EU and stuff like that, play on 170 ping. Just to get my rank number higher. I'd rather just learn the map, just get familiar with the new gun changes by just, pub stomping. And then, when the time comes, just give her.
Hodsic, again, you just woke up a little bit ago. Long grinds for this man. Things have been obviously been going pretty well for you. Just overall enjoyment. What's your overall enjoyment between this season and last season?
I love it. I think it's a really cool breath of fresh air. The game feels very different. I think it plays different. I mean, you still got a lot of the same legends and a lot of the same guns, but I think overall the game definitely plays a little bit differently, and I think it's cool. I think it would be a lot better when the charge rifle's obviously nerfed, but I'm excited. I think they're doing all the things that they need to be doing right, and especially with this new Halloween event coming up, I think it's going to be nuts. I'm excited. I think it seems like they have a lot of cool stuff planned continuously for Season 3. I don't think this is the only thing we'll see.
Yeah, I was about to say kind of the same feeling for me. I just enjoy this map. Just maybe it's because it's new, maybe because the aesthetics, whatever it happens to be. It's so enjoyable. Yeah, it's so enjoyable to play. I'm having a lot of fun with it. Yeah. What are your guys' general thoughts as far as we didn't really get a chance to talk about this? We talked about it a lot in the first episode. The new rank system points wise. Do you feel like it's hitting to what they want it to? Do you feel like it's accurately representative as far as how the points are working versus getting rewards for assists? Maybe some pros and cons there. What are your guys' thoughts as far as that change has gone?
Needs tuning. I think it's better, but it needs tuning. I like the kills. I like that you can't just rat your way to top to basically Diamond and Predator. You have to get kills.
Yeah.
I like the multiplier. I like that they're rewarding assists just as well. Also, because it sucks if you're like the Watson player and you're getting a lot of intro chip damage, and your Wraith just goes in and Mastiffs and then gets the points for that. So I like that they're rewarding assists. I like the multiplier. I think overall it feels a lot better. I think it's just I think placement does need to be a little bit more important, but not too much more. I don't want to see a rat style gameplay where it's like, oh, two of your teammates died off drop, and then your one teammate just basically has to rat to like top points, because it's harder to do that now. So it almost seems worthless, but it's just the numbers need a little bit of tuning. I think I do like that kills are valued and assists are valued highly now.
Urban, what are your general thoughts? You only had a couple of days, but comparing it to last season.
I think overall I like the assist change. I've always really enjoyed like H1PL did that, and it was a huge thing to try to make the game not just placement. I really loved multiplier. I think that was a great change. The biggest thing I'd like to see that they didn't do was I don't want it to just be like hard capped. You hit pred, same cost, keep going. Play the game a lot. I think a lot of people love leaderboard grind. They love that stuff, and I don't think it should just be reflecting of how much they play. I think the cost per game played should increasingly go up if you're higher RP. You shouldn't have people at 4,000 RP like last season if they're just gaining 3 RP each time. They're just playing more than someone who gains 10 RP, consistently winning games if they're just scraping by.
Sure.
But that's maybe a down the road change. I think it'd be a lot better for the people who are really, passionate about grinding the leaderboards and showing that they're the best.
I think that's a really interesting idea and a conversation that we could probably spend a while talking about. I would say that overall, I'm also a huge fan of the changes. My only thing is I'm starting to notice a lot of times, especially when I'm playing with either just one other person or for some reason jumping into ranked by myself, is when you're dealing a ton of damage to somebody and that 5-second threshold passes and you don't get credit for an assist because that's just how the threshold works. I think the threshold could be maybe upped a little bit as far as the timing goes, as far as getting credit for an assist on a knockdown or a kill, but I think beyond that, very much so enjoying how it feels compared to the last season. I think you're absolutely right, Hodsic. It's one of those things that you can't just, all right, we're just going to sit in this corner the entire game and just rotate wide to no fights and hopefully get top 5. It really, like you mentioned, it doesn't really feel nearly as worth it to do that. But obviously, then again, you're also dealing with a situation where maybe you're straying a little bit too far from the ranked mode of the game versus the esport of the game, which, at least as we know it from the last month ago, where Poland was all about. Again, like you mentioned, there's 17 teams still alive in ring number 3, which is definitely an interesting look to the game for sure.
Yeah. I think they're encouraging the play style that they want for esports, where people aren't doing that. And I think it's more entertaining for viewers for the majority of the game. I still love 17 team, zone 3 kind of games, because that last 5-10 minutes is amazing to watch. There's so much happening, but I think they're trying to teach a new play style for ranked. Clearly they wanted to be a little more aggressive. So I actually appreciate it. I like it a lot, but you got to learn it now.
Fair enough. I like that. And again, we have a couple of questions that are rolling in, but we're going to do one more category here, then hit your guys' questions. So if you have anything you want to ask based on anything we talked about throughout the entire day, or if you're coming in a little bit late and miss some things, feel free to ask a question as far as either legends or weapons or map or whatever it happens to be. Let's do it a little bit. This is a little bit of a steal from Around the Horn if you're familiar with the ESPN show. A little bit of buy or sell. Just tell me if you're buying this statement or selling this statement, and kind of, maybe throw your argument a little bit. Talking about the Fight or Fright event that's coming up. Again, just as far as the format's going to be, it's going to be 35 player solo lobbies where if you die, you respawn up as a ghost, essentially, and you get to fight against the real players, which is kind of like an infected game mode if you're familiar to like the Call of Duty scene or like that kind of style. But then the final 10 players that are alive, instead of fighting each other, they have to start to work together to fight up against those ghosts to get evacuated from the event. So, first and foremost, that game mode. Are you buying or selling the game mode? Raynday, I already know what you're going to say, but I'm going to start with you.
Okay, I'm buying it.
I know you are.
I love
this
it, baby.
This is YouTube Central for Raynday.
This
all
is
over the
YouTube
place.
Central, baby. Get the zombie gameplay, get the back gameplay, the King's Can solo mode. It's great. It's so great for content, which is part of it. I think it's great because it's another fresh change. I mean, we just got one. So the fact that they're adding that, I'm super buying it. It feels like, season 1 and 2, Apex Legends, where's my content? Season 3 said, hold my beer for this. They're like, let's give you everything. Too much content. You can't even cover all of season 3 before we give you a new map. So I'm really excited about it overall. And I can't wait to play it. It seems like it could be a little bit of a miss if it's not done right,
Sure.
because it does seem complicated, but it's just like one of my favorite board games, Betrayal. If you haven't played that, definitely play it. It's a really fun concept that I think it's gonna be fun.
Urban, buy or sell? You joining into those lobbies?
I'd be buying. I think the content purpose of that, I think it's going to add so much to the game for the casual sense. The only concern I'd have is just the 10 players at the end. I feel like it
Right.
might not be enough. I feel like, maybe even going to last person or last three
Yeah, it seems like it'd be tough.
might just be a little bit better. But we'll have to see.
Hodsic?
Hard buy. I was a big fan of infected game modes in Halo.
Same.
Hard buy. And I think they're doing it right with the shop as well. I don't know if you read those changes. It seems like it'll be an overall. I mean, I'm sure people will still find something to complain about, but I think it'll be an overall, really, really good, fresh breath of air. Even though we're already on a new map, I think it'll be cool. I can't wait to see what a spooky Kings Canyon looks like.
We'll talk about it. For me too, it's a hard buy, shut up and take my money type thing for me. I find every now and again, like again, I have a couple of IRL friends that aren't the greatest FPS players in the world. And so when they're like, hey, do you want to play some Apex? It's like, yeah, but I don't want to play ranked with you, unfortunately. This is one of those modes where it's like, let's go. Like we'll all try to queue at the same time. Let's try to get in the same lobbies. That's going to be a blast. Speaking of dark mode, on the map aesthetic changes. This is something that other BRs do often and do very, very well. As far as the concept of changing the map, dark mode, rain mode, snow mode, whatever it happens to be, do you buy or sell that? Let's just say that it changes the entire map completely. Buying or selling map changes.
I'm going to sell that as far as the traditional map. And my reasoning is that I think that when you can get it in something, that's the appropriate place for it. And I feel like they really honor what they're trying to do as far as keeping things consistent enough, even with balance changes and tweaking them just a little bit so that people can jump in and jump out and still enjoy that same game. And plus, respectful to the high level players who are practicing a map. You don't want night mode to come in and suddenly be like, well, this spot we were always in is like, you can't see anything out of it. So now we got to rotate to this place. And now we're screwed. So I would sell that.
Urban?
From a content sense, if it's a casual like game mode, that's great. Overall, I definitely sell that. I don't want a PUBG sense where it's like, oh, you got a rain map. Maybe your frames are bad. You can't see anything. You can't hear anything. I think we already have enough of an issue with the devs when it comes to stuff like visual clutter. I think the community has already been making an argument for that for months now. I really wouldn't want to see that. I wouldn't want to load into a competitive game or have a tournament. It's like, okay, so game 3 is gonna be on Kings Canyon and it's raining, and then game 2 is gonna be on World's Edge, and the sun's like right here. You can't see anything because of the bloom in your eyes. Like, I feel like you kind of lose a lot of the controlled atmosphere as that kind of most competitive games need to a sense. There always will be your RNG or different aspects, but I feel like something like that where you make it so you literally can't see anything just isn't the right way to go.
Yeah.
Hodsic.
From a casual standpoint, buy. I think it keeps games very interesting for most players. Definitely, I'll have to side with like competitively. If we can isolate the two and have just like one game mode have a set standard, then honestly, I think it's a buy all around. But yeah, I mean, like Urban said, if you just have like one like lighting change, that you effectively have to relearn a lot of the map because they're all of a sudden spots that might not have been as good are all of a sudden really good or something like that.
Right.
Like one small change can have a big reverberating effect on the rest of the map. And it's with a map this big, it can be difficult to have to go back and relearn all that. So if we can separate the two into two different modes, hard buy all around otherwise. So
yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. Isolated individual events, I think it's fine. I think it's perfectly fine. But I don't want to turn into like, and I hate to kind of bring it up, but it bears being mentioned that Blackout was that way, where it was like, all right, now the whole map is like hazily green, and then the next time it's like, oh, it's fall and the sun is right in your eyes when you look above, a certain tilt level. Yeah, I 100% agree with that. Okay, new cosmetics. I think generally from a concept standpoint, it's going to be a hard buy because they all look pretty hard to look insane. But a lot of people have mentioned the fact that the buy point is regular cash. They're all expensive. So the shop as a whole, getting the update, whether it be through progressing through it or buying through it, are you buying or selling the new cosmetic coming into this next patch as well? Start with Raynday.
Well, my point is, if you look at the comparison of the industry, they are the same prices as what you would buy in another major royale that everyone knows in the entire world. So it's not that they're out of place, and that's how they're pricing it. They're going based on their competition and players who are used to that economy of pricing. In the real world terms, spending $18 for a skin, when you could buy, a nice meal or something like that. Yeah, I think people will always react to that when they really look at the numbers. But overall, they made positive changes. I mean, it's a rare skin. We know how rare the Wraith heirloom was. We know how hard to get the Bloodhound heirloom was. This one is even cheaper, and you don't have to buy it after unlocking these packs, and you can buy the individual packs yourself. To support a better road, am probably going to buy this to get the heirloom, also because I want Lifeline heirloom. And that's just the way I'm going to approach this one, because I think they are making positive changes. May not be perfect, but I think they're going in the right direction.
Fair enough. Urban?
So, I mean, the new cosmetics, better cosmetics, I'll always embrace that. But overall, with the road they're taking, I'd almost want to say sell. I think with the way that, they have legends, that most people are one tricks, or like I really like path, and people even back out if they don't get those characters. I think the way they're going cosmetics, I'd like to see a change. I want a bit more customization. You have other games like Fortnite where maybe like back bling or something like that. You have like a lot of the PUBG H1s and stuff. You had shirts could change, backpacks could change, shoes could change. It's just like, especially when you're only running one legend mainly, like I just want a bit more customizing where they're not really going that road. They're kind of just like,
Yeah.
here's animation, but it's
Sure.
kind of like I want more.
Good point.
I hear
Hodsic?
that. I hear that.
I with the recent changes to like the model and how they're going to be doing this event, for me it's a hard buy. I mean, yeah, it would be cool to see more customization. I agree with Urban on that, but that's probably very likely very difficult to implement. But I think what's important for people to remember is that, like, if this is like Overwatch and we were paying $30 to get the game and then paying this much for cosmetics, that's a massive red flag. But at the end of the day, obviously we all want the skins, and they are a little pricey. But you're paying for, basically us paying for the skins allows us to get all of the massive content we're getting now, right? It's one of those things where, for me personally, the value for me is I like this game, I'm gonna support it, rather than I really love this skin, I'm going to buy just the skin and that's all I
Sure.
care about. Obviously there is that, I want to like the skin too, but you're paying for a lot more than just a skin. It's not just the skin that's valued at that much money. All of the content takes a lot of money to produce and make. And I think that's very important to remember. I don't think the skins are meant for everyone to have, because otherwise if they were, then they'd go bankrupt.
Absolutely.
Like they have to make their money somewhere. It is a business at the end of the day. I think it was scummy the way they kind of did it for the solos, but I think the way they're covering their bases now with, you can't just direct buy, it's not just loot boxes, I think is fine. The crafting medals too. I think they're doubling the price on them, but you could still use like OG crafting medals, which I think is also respectable. I think they're definitely taking steps in the right direction. For me, it's a buy.
Okay, fair enough. I would say I'm going to take the casual. Let's just say that I only play the game a couple of times, whatever it happens to be. These skins, production-wise, are $18 skins. The Battle Pass and the previous, I was like, I don't know. I can't really merit spending the money to get whatever's at the end, because I don't know. I just didn't really feel like it was on that same page. But these skins that I've seen so far, the GIF animations they have under the announcement post, these were $18 skins. That being said, because of what Urban said, I only play a couple of select legends. I'm selling on the hero customization, but I am buying all of these weapon customizations. They look so absolutely sick. So I'm a little bit down the middle of the road. I think that the points that you guys all bring up are very, very solid, but I'm right there with the Urban on that one, I think.
Actually, one thing I just remembered, and I'll ask you guys if, this might go into the marketing sense and stuff, and maybe I'm ruining my chance of having some really nice exclusive skins. Did anybody else here go to GameStop, EP Games, or whatever, and pre-order your guys' physical copies of the game that come with exclusive skins?
I should.
No.
Because we hopped in our vehicle, drove over there, and bought a bunch of copies. You get the Lifeline skins, you get gun skins with it, or Bloodhound with gun skins. It's an interesting road to take, but I like that.
Really good.
If you like Lifeline,
they are cool. You're right.
They're very cool.
Because it also comes with 1,000 coins. It was $20 with 1,000 coins, and like you have a banner, a badge, character skin, gun skin.
That's worth it,
No,
I
that's
think.
value. That's value.
Yeah.
Oh, that's absolute value.
100%.
You're basically paying $10 for all of the cosmetics, and because you get $10 worth of coins free,
Yeah.
more or less.
Yeah, 100%.
Oh yeah, and Bert was like, yeah, he loves the box arts.
He's like, I need that box art.
Bert's one of those concept art guys. You'll love to see it.
He's like, I don't even care if there's skins. I just want the box. Okay.
Like for a nice wall mount at some point in time. Let's jump into viewer Q&A. We've got a couple here to dig through before we close out the show here. For Embler, is it better in a competitive aspect to diversify as far as the map POIs or just drop the same spot every time? Good questions. Let's start going from the bottom around back. We'll start with Hodsic. What is your thought as far as, competitive minded? Do you drop the same spot every time, or do you like to flex and, find different spots to go?
Ideally, I think every team would love to just drop the same spot every time, and I think that's what you saw predominantly in Poland,
Sure.
because BRs are all about consistency. Learning new drop spots isn't just about how do I loot this the fastest way possible. Landing 100 times at every spot you're going to be playing, like, for example, is all about learning the rotations. It's the circle dictates a lot of what you learn about a new drop spot. Like, all of a sudden, we're landing dome. All of a sudden, we have to go all the way to skyhook, and you have to learn what the best rotation is for that. Sometimes you don't have access to that rotation. You have to learn a secondary rotation. So ideally, most teams like to drop in one spot if they can, and they do. If things get a little hairy, unfortunately, when you bring in something that happened to us is when you bring in another team all of a sudden out of the blue contesting your spot, and then all of a sudden things get a lot trickier. So in theory, you would think, yeah, we should drop in multiple places, but it's so hard to do that. It's so hard to learn all of that. I think competitively, you typically want to go for one spot. Might not always be the best strategy, but it's the most consistent.
Urban, I'm sure this will be a discussion here in the next couple of days for you guys. What are your general thoughts?
Yeah, well, I'll break down our kind of road that we took going into Poland. Going to Poland, me and Bert have been landing artillery since the start of the game. We had CLG and a few other teams that went there. They ended up being in our pool. So, we're like, not going to go artillery. So we started practicing containment. Because the reason we went to containment, very similar positioning, right? Almost the exact same rotational if you're going across the map. So, I mean, just knowing, like, having one spot isn't acceptable really in a competitive sense, because like if you go into Poland and you have another team in your spot, are you going to 50-50 them? Are you going to give them the spot, or what are you going to do? If you were in my Hodsic, I don't know if you were there. I don't know if I approached you. Actually, I already knew you were going. If you're in my group for losers bracket 3, I ran around the venue about 5 minutes before the game started, asking everybody, "Where are you landing?" It's like
A lot of people were.
I literally I was just like, where are you guys going? Are you guys going here? Like, I might go here. Like, are you guys going there? Because I'm like, I gotta find a spot to go, because we had Fnatic and A, who we knew weren't gonna back down. It's like, you have 3 games or 4 games that was 3 games. We're like, we're not gonna land on, like, we know they're gonna go there. They might not even know if we're gonna go there. So it's like, I'd rather not take that when I can go. And we ended up going runoff, which ended up working. But it was like, you need to know the spots around there, even if you have to kind of just say, okay, our main spot is, in the southeast. Let's learn the spots in the southeast. You need to have some depth so that if your spot is taken or it's highly contested, you have the depth to go elsewhere. Even at Poland, like, let's say you're just, you go to winners bracket or you're in the grand finals and you're just, doing amazing, and someone's like, oh, let's land on them. Like, you need that depth to be able to then choose a different spot and do just well where people don't know you're at, or just, so people can't harden into your rotations, your games, if they learn how you play.
Raynday, let's take it from the ranked aspect. You drop them with your boys, your group of 3, solid group. You guys land at the same spot every time, or do you adjust?
I think you land in your favorites, and I think you also have a contingency plan, which, what Urban and Hodsic are saying, that I think is the way you have to approach these high level things. And what we saw in Poland too, teams would be in these losers brackets, advance to the next round, and then suddenly, 19 different teams, and they're all landing in different places. So you have to adjust on the fly. I can't go any type of show without a basketball reference. So I'm saying get the ball with LeBron James. Fourth quarter. That play doesn't work out, though. You got to have an inbounds play as a coach. You have to have something in case things don't go the way that you want. You have to be able to D-up differently on different superstars. Fnatic's dropping with you. Okay, we're going to treat them differently versus if it's a team we feel comfortable 50-50. So it's all about contingency plans, and that's the work that nobody sees, but that shows up in those small details for these guys. So the way they said it was best.
It's funny. I didn't bring it up, but I was going to say it's very rare that we don't get Evan with the basketball reference.
Basketball reference.
was
Come
like,
on, the
we're
Lakers just
running
played in
low on
China this
time
morning.
here.
The Lakers played in China this morning. Anthony is looking like a beast. Game 1 versus the Warriors. I mean, I'm feeling good.
Urban, you wanted
Yeah,
to pitch
actually,
in?
I'll
You guys
go to
both,
Hodsic.
yeah. Sure, go for it.
I was just going to say real quick. I think that's one interesting thing that I wanted to point out that most viewers, if you're not outside of participating, if you're just watching, that's what most people don't see that goes on behind the scenes. What Irvin was talking about was the day leading into losers bracket finals and the grand finals. I know every team, most of them were hard, like kind of messaging each other. I got a lot of messages. People were like, "Yo, where are you landing?" You know, that's a lot of the stuff behind the scenes you don't see. Is people usually talk out their landing spots before they go in because nobody wants to be dropped on. Everybody wants a secure spot, and they'll play
Right.
off of that. So I think that's one thing that's very interesting. But you guys are right. I mean, the reason we failed is we didn't really have a contingency plan. We didn't know what to do once we got contested because our spot sucks to contest.
That's very fair.
The one thing I was gonna say, just about it all, you don't see like there's nothing you don't like. The thing about dibsing ones, like just taking one spot, like that's my spot. Whether you have like TSM at Cage or Rogan at Skulltown, you go there, you're gonna fight them. It's huge, especially in a tournament setting where you need the teams to be like, okay, they back off. Like when when we were going containment, we had Gamers Origin who actually made a deep run to the tournament. I think they got like 12th or some of that. But like we passed them in the hallways at Alvernia Planet, and they'd be like, "See you guys in containment." It's kind of like
we're not backing off.
it's like what? Like there's so much mind games and knowing that's your spot. Like especially just not getting dropped on. Like if people know it's your spot because you've been landing there and they know your pro nest in that spot, like it really can build a lot of consistency because teams aren't going to want to contest you there. I don't know. Like it just sometimes you have to, like, even if it's better practice to leave, like sometimes you just stay there because like you can't give someone else that spot. It's like I really want to learn this spot, but I really gotta stay here.
I kind of hate the dropping aspect when it comes competitively. I wish like every team could just get a spot and then you play from there. Because like Urban said, it's so many mind games, and it's something I'm still trying to figure out. Like, how the hell do you play around that?
I don't think there is any answer for it.
It's
tough. BRs are volatile esports, just the way it is.
We had Gamers Origin in our pool every time. We just like first game, we just said we had a plan. Like we're gonna pretend to go there, and last second we're gonna pull out and really contest it. And we had to get like 10 feet from the ground, and they pulled out. And we're like, okay, sweet, it's our spot. Like,
that's such a sigh of relief when that happens.
It's just like the mind games in it is just. It's
I hate it. I hate it.
I feel though, like kind of pulling full circle to what we were talking about before. This map in specific with World's Edge is a lot more forgiving to that because, like you mentioned, a lot of the big POIs you can get your loot on a different. Like, okay, we normally land the north side of Capital City. Someone else is going there. We'll just go to the east side, loot it, and then bail and hit one of the outer edges without having to worry about it as much. And I think there's a little bit more flexibility when it comes down to we know this location in and out. And even if someone contests us, we can still find a way to pick out the edges of it without having to fight and then bail and find something else off of a rotation. I think that conversation is going to change a lot once we see whatever it is when a regular season drops, if it is on this map, how that kind of goes. Second question coming out, and this is, I'm actually interested to get more of Urban's perspective. We were talking about this before, but from Headwind, who I know is out in Europe, how does the netcode currently feel? Far as I've heard, they've increased the delay between players drastically since launch, despite the fact that it was already problematically large. Urban, you guys play with a Swede often, so kind of I want to hear your take as far as how the game has felt. I know a lot of people have been saying that the hit registration has felt incredible from Season 2 to Season 3, but as far as the netcoding thing, how does that interaction feel, queuing up on European servers or having him queue up on North American servers?
I think overall, I think this game specifically, I know you have all those people who break down the netcode. From a player's perspective, this game feels really well on hyping usually. Like I can go to Europe, and a lot of times, like there's a few times I know, like someone like Decop when we were doing European scrims before Poland, like he couldn't play. It just broke. Like he couldn't even move. For someone like me who still had like 170 ping on the Europe servers from where I lived, it felt really smooth. The hit reg was honestly it felt cleaner. And then going into the season, I don't know what they did. I step out and I die. Like bullets are hitting like they've never hit before in this new season. I don't know if they just changed the bullet sizes or if that's a server change or what it is, but it just, I don't know. It feels good. It just, sometimes I vault up. I'm like, I'm gonna gun you down. I just I'm not even finished my vault. I'm dead. I'm like, what just happened?
No, hit reg definitely feels better. Aside from like the obvious like server teleporting and rubber banding that's been happening a lot I don't know what causes that, but like when you get like a good server where you're not just rubber banding, no, it feels good. And yeah, you can play this game on high ping. Like imagine playing Halo at like 170 ping.
No way.
You might as well go outside, honestly. That's pretty bad.
Hodsic, I'll actually ask you because I have a question. So I've noticed, like, because I played a decent amount of pubs. Pub servers
Right.
feel amazing from the start to the end, flawless. But I hop
Yeah.
in ranked, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm having issues. Like, have you noticed there's a difference between pubs and ranked? I don't know if that's
Yeah.
a server change or what it is, but like,
No, I'm with you on that. Pubs actually, yeah, I don't usually ever get those like super laggy pubs. And the same thing happens, honestly, even when we queue scrims on pubs. I don't know if it's like a server load thing, but like when we're scrimming, I feel like the servers always feel terrible, no matter what servers we go on.
okay.
I don't know. Yeah, it's really weird.
Because I know some people say like, oh, it's just gonna get more people like alive the circle, but like it's a start. It's an issue
No,
from the
yeah.
start. Like you're landing in
Yeah, yeah.
and you feel it. It's
Yeah.
like it's interesting.
And then Evan, we've both had kind of shared experiences playing with a couple of EU friends that we, have good connections with. What are your general thoughts as far as how the game feels when you're connected to Europe or whatever it happens to be?
Honestly, I think it feels okay. Again, I have to do a bit more experience with it, but we've been playing. I play with Vox a bunch, and I don't feel it. I don't feel it as much as I thought I would. There's still some rubber banding. There's still some odd hit reg for sure. I've seen bullets fly through some people that I felt like they shouldn't have flown through, but I ultimately feel like it's playable, and
Yeah.
especially if you're not at that ranked, that you're like, man, I'm losing 1 million RP because I lost this game. It's doable with your buddies.
That was kind of my reaction as well. I have a little bit of a different struggle being out here in the mountains, North Carolina. Internet's not
North
super
Carolina.
great. But yeah, that was kind of my general reaction too, is that it's definitely out of other games that are out there, it feels more plausible to at least palatable to say, all right, I got some friends in EU that want to play. Oh, I'll play with them. Whatever. It'll might be a little bit, disingenuous to what you normally feel on your native servers, but I would definitely say it's not nearly as bad as you would think. Then last question here from Emblor again. Do you guys think when Kings Canyon returns after the Halloween event that more people will go back to the old map, or will they stay with the current one? I guess this is more of a preferential question more than anything else, because we could speculate for days as far as what the general consensus would be. But individually, do you feel like you're going to want to queue up? Let's say you get two different queue ideas. It's all right, I'm going to go World's Edge or I'm going to go Kings Canyon. Where are you going, Raynday?
I think I'm gonna go. Man, that's a hard one. That's a hard one, isn't it? I think personally, and this is I got rose-colored glasses on. I'm gonna go World's Edge. I still love the freshness of it, and I think aesthetically the map is a much better place to be on, a much better place to watch games on, and to make content for. So personally, I like it. Unfortunately, you don't get that any weapon works, rush your style, 20 kill kind of game opportunities as much on this one. But I do feel like it's just a beautiful map. I can't give it up, man. I like it more than Kings Canyon.
Urban, where are you going?
I mean, if I had to choose between the two, honestly, like, if I was just casually playing, or like right now, if I was play competitively, I'd go to Kings Canyon just for the familiar, how familiar it is, and from a pub style, it is a bit more close quarters. You can consistently get good games. Um, but I really hope, like, just from that sense, I really hope the game doesn't go that way. I hope maybe Kings Canyon does return, but maybe that's World's Edge just leaves.
Yep.
We go on like a little like alternating like 6 month period where the map changes. They do like big fixes and stuff for it. But like, I feel like looking at games that had like PUBG where they had you had 3 maps or whatever you have now, probably like 4 now, where you could choose. It splits the community. You have people who, like, when you couldn't choose, you'd queue in, get the wrong map, and you're like, I'm out.
Yep.
I feel like it doesn't create a healthy environment having multiple maps where people have strong preferential choices over one over the other.
Sure. That makes sense. Hodsic, where are you queuing?
If I'm just pub stomping, throwing on some jams and just running through like pubs, Kings Canyon. If I am playing ranked or competitive, World's Edge.
Fair enough.
I like the way the new map feels. It's like I said, it just doesn't feel as congested. The circles I think need a little bit of tuning. I think the first circle is entirely too small. It forces so many hard rotations right off the
So
bat
many
of the gate.
early rotations as well.
Yeah.
Like, and they're hard too, because I honestly, like 60% of the map is already, actually probably more, like I feel like 70% of the map is gone in the first circle, and it forces already a very difficult. I feel like in Kings Canyon, the difficult rotations were circles 3 to 4. That's the one big hard rotation you have to make. and if you survive, then you're in the end game.
Fair enough.
World's Edge, sometimes the first circle is honestly one of the hardest rotations you have to make. It feels like you can play so many more spots, and World's Edge is just getting there immediately because there's so many big gatekeeping chokes. But yeah, that's that. I'm with Urban. I hard stand for one map. I think the second you have multiple maps, it's just going to dilute queues, and it could just make everyone forsake one map, and I don't think that's good.
It's going to be an interesting conversation. For me personally, I'm just hitting the random button. I don't prefer one or the other. I think they're both super fun. I think they both provide some interesting dynamics. But now I think the biggest question for me, and I don't want to get too much into a conversation on this, we already had one map-changing event that happened on the first map. Does that start to go away because you're adding more maps into the queue? Like, if there's a map change to World's Edge, does that kind of change the dynamic? Because I'm immediately going back in my head a couple years back to PUBG. Erangel was the first map, Miramar was the second, and as soon as they started forcing me on Miramar, my playtime went drastically lower. I hated that map. Could not stand it. And I stopped playing the game mostly because of it. So the ability to choose, I think, is one thing. Obviously, there's concerns as far as, the double-edged sword there is you're splitting your player base up. The randomization of it also provides a negative side because, again, how do you prepare competitively if you're forced onto a random map? And then the third part of the conversation is, will there continue to be map-changing events that happen, and does it happen less often because there's more maps? How does that kind of fit between the casual to the competitive to the esport? I think that there's a really interesting question that has now been posed because we have multiple maps with the history of map-changing events that happen season to season. Evan, looked like you wanted to tune in there. You kind of took a big gasp for a second, but unless we lost him.
Frozen?
I think we maybe.
Yeah, it's frozen. I'm like, that doesn't look like a facial expression. Okay, I'll hop in here and just I don't even know if I'm responding to what your question was. Now that I kind of got thrown off by that frozen face just staring back at me right now. But the way I'd like to see it, like, I think the way they did Kings Canyon was really well done. With it, like, currently it has a story and it has an end, right?
Sure.
With the with the repulsor tower dropping and the invasion of the Leviathans and the Flyers and stuff, kind of being the reason they went over to World's Edge. I had a few talks with some people, and I think the way I'd really like to see and tie it into the competitive scene would be, even though, like, it'd be a lot of work for the developers. But imagine, like, even if it was a year long or 6 months, if you had, competitive tournaments and all this stuff, and, a few map changing, like small map changes every like 3-6 months. But then, like, once a year, you got a new map. And right before the new map, just like Poland, you had this giant event. And that's kind of like, you crown your victors of that map, right? Like, that messed stuff up, or
it does a little bit. It's okay. We'll fix it up.
Okay. Oh wow. Okay.
Just don't look at it. Just pretend nothing's wrong.
Yeah. Looked over like, oh wow, yeah, just minor mess up. But I feel like the way they could tie that in, like, it keeps the map fresh. Having small changes, and the lore is amazing. A lot of people do love the lore. I like it. I like the fact that it kind of, like, Kings Canyon right now had a story. It had a beginning and an end. I think, if you had stuff like Poland where you could, crown like TSM there, the victors of Kings Canyon, I think that'd be huge for, just the longevity of esports and the game itself.
Sure. What are your general thoughts as far as that conversation goes, Hodsic?
Agree. I remember from, like, a lore standpoint, I remember first hearing, like, the game, like, when the game first came out, and I was like, I heard about all these, like, characters' bios. I was like, man, who really cares, right? But the fact that they're very clearly pumping in many resources. All these animated videos are so cool.
They're super dope. Super dope.
I get just as excited for them as I used to for Overwatch ones. Like, I'm just like, I like fiend for more content. I think it's so good. It's so well done. I agree with Urban. I think that would be really cool. I think it was awesome to see, like, an X Games type place enter the map right after X Games finished.
Loved Octane Scala when it first dropped. Loved it.
Yeah, like, it was obviously very clearly an homage to the X Games, and I think that's so cool. I think it would be cool. I think if they did a lot of esports integration into just the map, like Urban said, like crowning TSM the victors of Kings Canyon, or just something like visible to the casual player, it could also rope in more people to the esports. They might get a little bit curious and, like, start actually following it a lot more, and because all of a sudden you're basically throwing everyone into it. I think that would be a very cool idea. And yeah, I'm all for it for
Cool.
sure.
I'm all about it as well. I think some kind of way to pay homage would be awesome, but we'll see what happens. We're gonna wrap things up here. Again, everyone who's out there watching throughout, pleasure having you guys. Of course, Raynday not able to say his goodbyes, but a pleasure having him on as always. Urban, thanks for joining us. Kind of last minute, but it was awesome having you on.
Yeah.
Definitely a pleasure. Final thoughts from you as far as everything goes?
I don't know. We had a good long talk here. I'm trying.
A little bit longer than I had
Nice.
thought it we would, actually, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything I didn't say, other than just maybe like I don't know, nerf the charge rifle. But
Yeah,
fair.
I don't know. It was great coming on, but I think we covered pretty much everything as for any in-game conversation that we could have.
Yeah, absolutely. Hodsic, always good to see you again, friend. Final thoughts
sir.
from yourself?
Thanks for having me. I really enjoy podcast type material, despite I don't even feel tired anymore. I feel like
welcome.
I've gotten a full 8 hours. But no, I'm excited. These are fun. I think it's important to talk about too, because I think there's certainly like a lot of different varying viewpoints you can have on like new content, like new store things. I think it's important to hear a lot of different points of view for a lot of people to also like gauge that and when it comes to like the game's health and what's going on with it and stuff like that.
Right.
So I think it's definitely it's important to have things like this. And I am all for it.
Well, it's always a pleasure having you on. Again, this has been episode 2 of Apex Central. If you missed the first one or if you missed part of the second one, of course, this will be up on my personal YouTube as well. You can find just by going to youtube.com/IHOLDSHIFT. We're doing it bi-weekly, so we'll catch you guys in 2 weeks for episode number 3. Until next time, hope you guys all keep holding it down. Later. Bye-bye.